Good evening. I'm going to call this meeting to order, and I'd like to invite up Alexander Samuelson, who is a 5th grader in Ms. Newcomb's class at Monte Vista.
Put your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item B, approval of the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
I'd like to pull on the agenda, consent agenda, 4C, D, and E.
Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda, items A, B?
No, C,
I'm sorry.
C, D, and E.
A motion to approve the agenda with the changes, with C, D, and E coming after the rest of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 2, communications. Student board member reports. Nothing.
Well, Happy New Year to everyone in the community. To start off, the majority of our students at Rancho had a very successful first semester with a very smooth flow through finals. Our spring sports are starting soon. They will start in February, and you are invited to all games, especially the Cougar Crew games. Unity Week will be February 14th through 17th. Unity Week is a week full of a wide variety of diverse and cultural performances and or presentations. Our ASB will be working very hard with that project for the next couple of months, and everyone is invited to come on campus at any time and view any of these presentations or performances. Our students and staff are very happy that Measure C passed, and we are all very excited for our new TAG building coming our way in the next couple of years. Our parent step-up night is tomorrow night at 6, and all parents of 8th graders in our community are invited. Our 8th grade step-up days are this week, Thursday and Friday. The ASB class will be touring the 8th graders from our local middle schools around our campus, and giving them a better feel of high school life. Thursday, Tech Middle School and Thomas Page will be joining us, and LJ will be joining us on Friday. The WASC Visiting Committee will be coming to our campus Sunday through Wednesday to look at our WASC report and evaluate our campus. All of our teachers and staff are ready for it. Today at lunch, ASB held the Spirit Point Reward tailgate for the senior class. The seniors got pizza, water, and cookies provided by ASB because they won the Spirit Point competition during the first semester. ASB will be going through an encore training seminar this semester, so we are all looking forward to that. And finally, our Spirit Commissioners and ASB have been preparing our Battle of the Fans video all year, and it will be entered soon. The due date is January 19th. Battle of the Fans is a competition between schools to gain the title and award of being the most spirited school there is. Last year, we were in the finals head-to-head with Windsor High. We look forward to seeing those results soon. Thank you.
Item B, Roanoke Park Patati Educators Association report. Jen Bodlovich is here.
Hello and good evening, President Farrell and Board of Trustees and Superintendent Haley. Happy New Year. I'm Jen Bodlovich, President of Roanoke Park Patati Educators Association. Thank you for having a spot on the agenda for an association report. RIPSI looks forward to a year of mutual efforts to provide quality education in our district. I'll be speaking a summary of information this evening from last month's report. So in November, trustees Wilterman, Farrell, and I met where we spoke of many things. One topic being safety. One of the safety features brought up was an employee ID badge. I brought that forward. To ensure that staff can be identified on campus. Some schools already have these ID badges or tags, but not all of them. I was walking on the Tech Middle campus in December and noticed a supervisor with an ID badge. I complimented the officialness of her badge. This gal noted she could identify me because I had a shirt on with my school name. But without such a shirt, I wouldn't be known that I was district staff. So I remember the thought of ID tags being brought up after the Sandy Hook shooting, and badges would increase safety awareness in our district. There's also an element of having the badge and actually wearing it too. So this is a topic to start having collaborative conversations with the district and staff. And Trustee Nahn and I spoke of topics. So one of them was writing, as Mr. Nahn is a writer, and what it looks like for teaching and learning. We also spoke of the teacher shortage in California and the need to retain teachers. We have a lot of new teachers that we need to keep. And in fact, about 120 new educators have been hired in our district in the past 3 years, which is a little less than a third of our membership. Our HR department, Dan Miller and Karen Tedesco, have been very busy and working hard to get all the paperwork for all of these new educators, and we thank them for their efforts. We want and need to retain these teachers in Cotati-Werner Park, and as CTA, they gave some interesting stats on credentials. In 2009 and 10, there were 20,000 credentials presented. In 2013 and 14, there were 15,000 credentials presented. So it'll be interesting to hear what the stats are in another year or so. Therefore, the need to retain our teachers is really important. So I look forward to more conversations with more trustees too, with Trustee Brown and Trustee Orloff, in fact, tomorrow evening, which I'll get to in a moment. Thank you also to the district and their administrative team for working to provide planned trainings in November with an array of topics for the voluntary per diem day. We are glad that the board approved these days to provide additional compensation to educators of valuable topics. There will be the next round of half-day voluntary training coming up next month in February. So thank you to Superintendent Haley for making the efforts to meet with me and my members of the executive team for monthly meetings and those needed beyond the ones that are scheduled. Substitute deficiency. I've spoken to this a few times this fall, and I know it's countywide. There is still present a sub-deficiency which continues to impact teaching and learning. At one elementary school site, there was no sub, and so the class was broken up into thirds and dispersed among 3 classrooms. And at 2 middle schools, teachers were asked on their prep to sub, and or they can't attend trainings due to lack of subs. So it is, as I said, a countywide issue. We ask the board to please consider bringing our district to competitive sub pay with neighboring districts. We are currently at $120 a day. That's aside from retired teachers within our district, though, because they get more pay, and that is wonderful, which, by the way, we heard from CTA, we are one of 2 districts in the county that have that pay our retired teachers more, so thank you for that. So we are at $120 a day, and neighboring districts are at $140 a day. The high schools came to the end of their semester, and the middle school and elementary are underway in trimester 2. I hope to hear that Quick Schools was able to switch classes easily at the high school without too many glitches. Today, the elementary sites at grade levels collaborate. This was across district on making a report card that is standards-based and efficient for teachers and readable to the parents. The current report cards that elementary folks have to use, they fill in 45 slots per student and times that number by an average of 25 students. That's 825 slots per trimester. So it's a bit overwhelming. We look forward to what will come with these new report cards. Aside from the report card organization, Dr. Senior is also organizing an elementary pilot committee for a Common Core math program, so we thank her for that. Over the course of 4 months, when school started, I've been visiting school sites, and since the November board meeting, I visited Evergreen, Tech Middle, John Reed, and Waldo Rohnert. I now will begin my 2nd round of visits as I've visited all the school sites. What I truly enjoy about the visits is the FaceTime. And with these slides, I also hear a wish list of needed concerns. But one thing we can all agree on is that the district and staff work incredibly hard to meet the needs of our students. In December, myself, along with our bargaining chair, Carly Harp, met with Dr. Singer to suggest alternatives for the current average of our counselor-student ratio. Our contract goal is 300 to 1. Our middle schools are at about an average of 400 to 1 and beyond. And then Thomas Page Academy doesn't have a counselor. A ratio of 301 would help the needs of our students, counselors, and staff. We hope the district considers our suggestions, and the benefit to having an adequate ratio is also in line with California Law AB 420. This 3-year law began January 1st, 2014, where it places limits on school discipline in regards to suspensions for willful defiance. This law was created as an effort for positive discipline and accountability approaches that keep kids in school. One of the noted supports in the law for the student is counselor referral. So an adequate counselor ratio assists this law, and it also provides more social, emotional support for kids so they can better access their education. And in conclusion, last month, the association extended an invitation to all the trustees to accompany RIPSIA members to a CTA dinner tomorrow evening in the Flamingo in Santa Rosa. This dinner recognizes newly elected board members and those endorsed by the local chapters. But CTA also likes to have as many board members as possible, hence the inviting of all. And I'm pleased that all of you are coming too. RIPSIA is excited that the entire board is attending, and CTA President Eric Hines is going to be the guest speaker. So it's a pretty exciting night. There will also be a program that includes what CTA stands for and how the organization is conducted, along with some presentations on subjects of mutual interest and concern. We are thrilled your schedule provided you the opportunity to join us. So thank you for listening. Hope you had an enjoyable holiday and look forward to the productivity of 2017. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Item C, receipt of official correspondence. There is none at this time. So item D, board member reports. Trustee Brown?
Pass.
Trustee Nod?
I just want to mention, in case anybody's wondering why I don't have papers here, that I'm blind and I can't read. So bear with me, I can't see your faces. If you're laughing or frowning, it doesn't make any difference to me. So I hope you're smiling. But so last Friday I went to a presentation of alumni at the ranch, and it was just so inspiring to me to hear these 4 alumni speak. I think Jennifer was there too, and there was Dan Brown from the San Jose Mercury, and talked about being a sports writer, and a gentleman was a national security advisor in the Obama administration, and he had some great inside stories about the White House, which was fun. And a social worker had served terms in Iraq, and police officer. And the students asked fantastic questions, and I was really impressed by how astute the questions were, and there were, I think there were about 100 students, and I wanted to thank, I apologize if I have the name wrong, Gloriana Ruiz, the career counselor who organized it, and the library staff who did an excellent job of hosting it. So I hope there's, I don't know if there is in the district, but I hope there's an alumni recognition day every year and that this happens. I think it's really useful for the students because you could see that they had so many questions about their careers and college goals. And can I talk about CSBA or should I wait? So last year we went to the California School Boards Association annual dinner, and there were a lot of workshops, and I could talk forever about it, but the 2 greatest things I learned there from talking to students and teachers, in particular teachers, because I spoke to several teachers who had retired who had gotten elected to their school boards, and my first response was, why aren't you lying on a beach in Mexico or Hawaii? Why are you, after serving 25 or 30 years as a teacher, why are you continuing to work in your district? And so when we talked, I realized that it wasn't just a job for them. They didn't just say students need a quality education because it was a slogan. They had dedicated their whole lives to improving the opportunities of students for quality education, and they wanted to continue to do that. And that was so inspiring to me. And then I met this gentleman from Watts who had grown up as a, he got into drugs and was dealing drugs in Watts and getting involved with gangs and crime. And he had a mentor who came along and helped him get out of that lifestyle and get into college. And now he's in college, and he was so articulate talking about how he wanted to be a mentor for low-income students who face difficulties. And so then I started thinking a lot about our conversations and what was the connection between students and teachers for me as a board member. And the CSBA has this passage on their website that board members are advocates for students. But I thought, what's the connection with teachers, our relationship to teachers? And I realized that I have to be an ally for teachers. I have to be an ally to make sure that they have competitive salaries, like Jen was talking about, that they have good working conditions, because they're the ones who are working every day delivering that quality education that everyone is working on, Julie with curriculum and others. And so being an advocate for students means being an ally of educators. And that making that connection was really useful for me. And I think that's going to be my guiding light, maintaining that connection as I serve. So I was just so grateful for that, all the presentations and meeting these teachers and students and others.
Thank you. Trustee Wiltschmidt?
So, since we didn't have our normal conversation last month, I'm going to go back a little bit. So, as President of RIPSIA, Jen Balovich, stated, we met, President Farrell and I met with her in November during the Thanksgiving break to discuss the election and our different perspectives of what's happening in our district and how we can move forward together working as a team. I had the opportunity to tour Thomas Page along with Principal Raffoni and a couple of the teachers that will be teaching at Richard Crane to look at the new furniture being piloted and discuss with the Thomas Page teachers what furniture they find works best in their classrooms and what can be changed to be better utilized. I attended the chamber luncheon. I have attended the wellness meeting that was this last week, ran by Dr. Sinyard and Food Services Director Susie King, along with many teachers, staff, students, and community members. We're presently working on revising our board policy and implementation procedures, and our next meeting is going to be scheduled for March 28th at 3:30 right here in the library if anyone would like to join us. I attended Margaret Hahn's PTA meeting, and they've been busy having movie nights, working on their membership drive, and are putting together their end of the year luau. Last Friday, I also had the opportunity to attend the alumni career event and got to listen to our students engage with past alumni. We had our local dentist, Dr. Jamie Sahoria, sports writer Deanne Brown, White House liaison Matt Kasmerick, who was also a student board member when he was a student here at Rancho. We had San Rafael Police Lieutenant Alan Piambo and Mario Vasquez, who's a Solano County Benefits Specialist. I really enjoyed listening to the students' questions and the alumni's experience during life at Rancho and beyond. And this weekend I attended, as a lot of you know, that this weekend is to raise awareness. It's the month to raise awareness for human trafficking. I attended a fundraiser this weekend put on by Junior League, and the numbers are quite startling. In Sonoma County alone last year, there were 700 reported runaway children, and statistics show 1 out of 6 of those children become victims of human trafficking, and the numbers are continuing to grow. So that's something that we really need to discuss with our kids and our students and make sure that they're really aware of what's out there and how they're being tricked into being led away with someone that's going to
put them into a situation we don't want them to go into. So.
Thank you. Trustee Orloff.
Thank you. I also attended CSBA annual conference back in December. Just a thing to touch on that besides all the new laws that are coming into effect in 2017, there was quite a bit of discussion in regard to independent charters that I found fascinating, given that we just had 2 up for renewal. Really the for-profit charters that they were discussing during some of these presentations, which was really interesting in that, much like AAS, who only has 37 ADA, a lot of these are in it just for the money, and that's, they basically congregate throughout the United States, or throughout, in this, what they were describing in California, in multiple districts, utilizing the same resources, basically stealing from Peter to pay Paul in some circumstances. And what was truly interesting about it is one of the ringleaders was recently jailed, and he had some footprints on the AAS piece. And so he was in a district in San Diego County and moved up to Marin City. But he was let go of Marin City, obviously, while he sits with an ankle bracelet now at home, likely never to be involved again. That has a huge effect on the resources that we have in our classrooms and for our children, and I think that's why public education is so important, not for-profit education, and that's something we always have to consider. Next week I'll be going to the NCS board meeting. I'll let you know what happens at the next meeting, and other than that I'll pass it off to our fearless leader.
All right, thank you. I also attended the California School Boards Association Annual Education Conference, and it's interesting to see, I use it as a barometer for where our district stands in the state, and a lot of the presentations, there was one on a design lab, which we've brought to our district. There's a lot on mindfulness and student movement, which we've also brought to our district. And so it's nice to see that we are heading in the right direction as far as education trends in California goes. And so it's also a great networking experience to get to talk to other board members about what's going on in their districts across the state. And then, I don't remember when it was, maybe Nafe can correct me on this, Matt Franzi's government class, sometime in December, maybe.
I don't remember the exact date.
They did a student-led congress as part of their project, and Trustee Wilchermuth and I went and got to see the kids act out their House of Representatives, and they presented bills and they debated bills, and they then voted through Google Classroom, and so that was really cool to see them have that hands-on experience about how laws are made and how you get real change in government. So that's my monthly report. Item E, Superintendent's report. Haley?
We had the year in review video scheduled for December. Boy, it seems like we're already deep into 2017, so I did have our communications specialist post that online. He'll move it again at the top of our website. It's a nice video recap of events from last calendar year. I encourage everyone to take an opportunity to view that. In keeping with one of our goals, a big day tomorrow is our kindergarten fair. It is being hosted this year at University Elementary in the kinder rooms there that we've been able to restore for this school year. There'll be principals and teachers answering questions about TK through kindergarten in general, and questions about our specific sites. There'll be activities for children. The PTAs are participating, so that's very nice. We have some other partners, the Petaluma Health Center, the YMCA, and the Four Seas Gold Ridge Preschool are participating as well. And of course, everyone will be able to get their registration paperwork to get their ETK/TK/kindergarten students enrolled. So that's exciting entry point into the K-12 system, ETK 12 system. As superintendent, I also enjoyed attending the California School Boards Association. It's always a good opportunity to hear from different people from around the state and get perspectives. Sat in on the pre-session, which was legislative and legal updates We've shared that information with the board, keeping abreast of the myriad of laws that change both at the federal level and the state level that impact us is almost, it's just incredible. CSBA is a good resource for that. And of course, have attended many events, including the AP government class putting on their mock Congress. That was, I thought, very enlightening. They did an outstanding job following procedures and making motions and seconds and everything else, and it was great to see. And with that, I will conclude my remarks.
Item 3, presentations. Public comment, no requests for this item were received. So, item A, Committee to Protect County Park Schools. Dr. Haley?
Yes, we have some members of the committee here, and this is just an opportunity to, I guess, talk a little bit about the events of the last 5 years. And I'd like to invite one of the co-chairs come to the podium, Susan Adams. It was 5 years ago in January of 2012 that I had a couple different meetings with Susan Adams and one of the longtime members of the committee, Pam Stafford, and considered options. We were still definitely in the depths of the Great Recession and knew that we needed to make some changes. Another community member that I'd gotten to know at that point, Jennifer Wiltermuth, who is now a trustee, was also instrumental in getting us started. And we gathered a group together and quickly formed a committee, and we've accomplished quite a bit since. And the reason we're putting this on now is it looks like this committee has done its work, and we may be looking for other services sometime in the future, but for now it's done its work. With that, Susan?
Thank you, Trustee President Farrell, members of the board. On behalf of Michael Bocut, who chaired the successful Yes on C campaign, I would like to thank the board for voting unanimously to place the measure on the November 2016 ballot. Also, I'd like to thank members of our committee, and my apologies if I leave anybody out: President Farrell, Trustee Orloff, Trustee Wiltermuth, Superintendent Dr. Haley, CBO Barron, Mindy McKeon, Amy Carter, Henry Sarlott, Angie Scardina, Scott Johnson, Chairman, of course, Michael Bocut, Treasurer Debbie Zeese, and our Roanoke Park City Councilwoman Pam Stafford and Sherry Lorenz. Thanks also to members of the admin team and community members who helped with passing out information to voters during our campaign. I'd also like to thank the voters of Roanoke Park and Cotati for voting overwhelmingly to support the passage of Measure C. The board should accept the passage of Measure C as a statement from the community that they're pleased with the direction that the board is taking the district. Finally, one of our trustees mentioned the responsibility of board members to improve teacher working conditions and offer competitive salaries to our educators. During the past 5 years, with unanimous support of the board and support of our community, the members of the Committee to Protect Cotati Roanoke Park Schools have worked together to pass $160 million in bonds, which improve teacher working conditions and student learning conditions, and somewhere in the neighborhood of $16 million in parcel taxes, a revenue stream which is responsible for district's ability to continue to offer competitive salaries. And with that, I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Item B, Rancho Cotati High School Support Services. Dr. Haley?
We have Assistant Principal Angie Scardina from Rancho Cotati High School here to present, and she can introduce her fellow presenters.
Good evening. So I am here, and I want to thank you first of all. I wanted to come to the board and tell you thank you, all the wonderful, great things that are happening at Rancho. But being in the district, I'm on my 21st year, which I'm very pleased to get my 20-year pin last year. Thank you. I've just seen a lot of changes in our students and the needs of them. And I believe at Rancho, we've adapted to those needs based on your support and your continued support. So we want to thank you. And we just kind of want to show you the things that we're doing at Rancho with your continued support we're allowed to do and how we're benefiting students. So I start off by basically on the bottom, I know it's tiny, you don't see it, but it's kind of a point of one of our presentations. Our presentation tonight is that a lot of times it's your connection or your positiveness or something you say that really just affects a child and can turn their day around or make them think differently. So you'll see on the bottom of every slide I got a positive quote, like the first one's "You are awesome." So again, just keeping that positive tone. I really feel in my education, been an educator for over 25 years now, that we are about changing mindsets. When I first started in education, it was what's wrong with this person? That's not what we're asking. We're asking what has this person been through and how can we help support them? Current research, I know there's a lot of little, you can't read everything. Basically, I tried to sum up some background research that I've researched myself or gone to trainings. Basically, what the research is telling us is that 30% of our girls and 20% of our boys, totaling which is 6.3 million teens, have had an anxiety disorder, according to data from the National Institute of Mental Health. And we're the first generation that cannot escape our problems at all. This comes from students again, now their generation. We're all like little volcanoes. We're getting this constant pressure from our phones, from our relationships, from the way things are today. Being a teenager today is a draining full-time job that includes doing schoolwork, managing a social media identity, and fretting about career, climate change, sexism, racism, you name it. So again, just to give you some background research-based, that yes, our kids are living life differently than we did. Our children, I'm lucky enough, because I say that I love being a parent. I have 3 children, all 3 in our district. And I can see, them growing up. I didn't have to worry about Columbine and school shootings. I didn't have to worry about, social media and Facebook and do I have an Instagram and, how are kids going to see me? So it's a lot more pressures today than it was for myself growing up. So it's just getting the background, knowing the research, and then how do we help our kids? The ACEs study, I'm sure a lot of you probably heard about this. It's big. I'm very, very proud of our staff at Rancho. Doug Busher, a Phoenix teacher, is kind of one that started and led this at Rancho, and we've kind of piggybacked and trained other teachers, and Miss Ribley and myself and Doug are going to about every 2 months of training on the ACEs. But what the ACEs is Kaiser a few years ago, basically in a nutshell, did a study of patients and basically looked at these children and said, 17,000 adult Kaiser members, and they gave a 10-question survey. And what it came down to was that these children on a 10-question survey, if they answered above 4 on that survey, a yes, a lot of questions deal with alcohol, abuse, neglect, feeling loved. If they answered yes, that's telling us that they had an acute childhood experience, and we need to adapt to that as educators, and we need to help them through that. So what we've done at Rancho is basically, let's give you a background. So the higher your ACE score, the more likely that you are going to have a higher stress or a child that's going to stress and experience that as they get older. It could lead to alcoholism, depression, fatal death, liver disease. So there's just a lot of research based talking about the ACEs. So what we've done at Rancho, and just to kind of show you a little bit, and stand out here, we have El Camino and Phoenix, which are 2 alternatives. One's a program, one's a school at Rancho. And I gave the ACE test to them, okay? Phoenix, as you can see the bar graph, 63% of them have 4 or more yeses, okay? Over at El Camino, 55. So a large percentage. It's more than the national average of about 40%, 35%. So we definitely have some high needs. Again, great programs, great teachers helping to support those students. But just showing a little background. And then again, the research goes into stress. So a childhood, this is a picture, sorry for some of you to see. A 3-year child, one that was been neglected, and a child that lived a normal childhood life, and the size of the brain. So again, research is showing that again we have to take these things into consideration when our children cross our classrooms and our doorsteps. So, that to overcome ACEs, okay, just as a brain can be harmed by negative experience, so too may it be healed through positive experience. And that is what we thrive on at Rancho, and really amongst our staff and our students and our counseling, you'll see our job is to provide that safe, stable, and nurturing relationship with every student so that they feel that way. Said another way, basically, you might have inherited not just your grandmother's knobby knees, but also her predisposition towards depression caused by neglect as a newborn. So again, we're making things and changing things for the better and being positive. So what can we do? As teachers, we make those healthy connections with an adult who understands, and is one of the most powerful things we can provide. And a simple way to start making the connections is to do a check-in. Part of Personal Power Phoenix program or 2 alternative programs, they do a check-in every morning. How you doing? 1 to 10. Well, I'm a 1, didn't eat today, Again, accomplished working with those students, making those, accommodations and helping them support and feeling respected and heard. Okay, so now I get to the good part. And again, I know I only have a short time, so I'm brief, and I'm always free for questions after. Glad to come back. This is something, my heart and soul, and I'm very proud of that ranch and what we've accomplished. So I have it up there, but I also, I guess, could put it over somewhere. I know I'll do, but maybe over here for the audience. It's the same chart, actually. So I can just read up there if one of you wants to see it. So basically at Rancho Cotati, thanks to the board support and everything, we have guidance counselors. We have 4 guidance counselors plus a college and career counselor. Awesome. You already heard about her alumni presentations. Very proud of a grant that we applied for to help fund part of that. But again, very blessed. And so I have Nora Goff, who is here. She's our department chair of our counselors to represent our guidance team. And again, without your support and having them to work with our children on academics and the basic needs of being that successful academic student, without that great support, we wouldn't be able to add this, and these are able to help them focus on the academics. So I'm going to start off, I believe I saw her. I'm going to skip here. DAC. I want you to come up and just raise your hand and introduce. This is our DAC counselor. This is Lena. And Lena comes in 1 day a week. And she basically works with our students in drug and alcohol and for the abuse center. So kids that get in trouble with alcohol or drugs get referred to her. And then also other kids, if we feel someone's struggling or kid needs her support service, we'll refer her. And she's great. She runs a group every Friday after school and with students and giving them interventions and support that they need. So she's one of the pieces of the puzzle. So thank you for coming, Lena, from the north. And I think Karen's here also. So we all know Karen, but Karen Davis is one of our mental health, social workers on campus, and so you see her here. So she helps deal with the special ed. And so we have Jennifer Heddle, who's our school psychologist. We talk about special ed, and then Matt Warfield. Again, wonderful support for our students. Someone is there every day to help support those needs. Kate was not able to make it tonight, but Karina is crisis and prevention education. So she's there 2 days a week in the morning. And she helps provide, if a student's really struggling, 5150, which means want to attempt suicide or have a plan to attempt suicide or just feeling really depressed. She's great. Just so that you all know too though, CAPE is a 24-hour crisis line, so they are available 24 hours to all students, to all people. But she actually comes to our site and runs intervention teams 2 days a week, which is great. SOS is our, it's our project success, originally back in our district, which I'm going to save for the last because they're our next presentation part and big part. They're basically the outside resources. So SOS comes in and does outside community counseling with our parents, students. They also provide on-site community to our Phoenix program and to other students. So it's another outside community source that we have, but it's connected with our project success, which we're very blessed to have. And Abby and Cassidy run that for us. And then down here, just some, again, outside referrals, CPI, DAC, Family Insurance, Medi-Cal, Jewish, Social Advocates for Youth. Again, great resource at Rancho. So the next one I'm going to move to is our project success. Flash Walsh is our coordinator. He'll go through a couple slides that we have, and we'll talk about some data to show you. But he's here with some wonderful students from Rancho, just to talk briefly about project success and give you background on what they do for our students at Rancho. Flash. Students, you're important.
Good evening, and thank you for having us. My name, as introduced, is Flash Welch. I am the Project Success Coordinator at Rancho Cotati High School. And basically, Project Success is about supporting the counselors. Our counselors are inundated with a lot of different things at any given time. So what Project Success do is provide them with support in the form of providing students with individual counseling as well as group counseling. There's a variety of different groups that we match students in. In addition, we also provide services to parents, administration staff, and we do community outreach. Community outreach is very important, and it's one of the things that stand out in our program. As passed out, if you have noticed on your chairs, and we have some more information up here, we have different kinds of presentations available to support parents at the school, not only at our school, but at all the schools. So everyone is invited to participate. One is QPR, question, persuade, refer, which help aids parents in how to talk to their child or others about suicide. We also have a CPI that's going to do a presentation, and that presentation is the power of positive parenting. That is something that's been requested for a long time, and we finally will have it on campus. So if you need some more information, you could always get that. I love my job. I gotta say this, because my job, I get to work with students every single day, and I drive off of it. We'll have a chance to be introduced to our EdCore group. This is their second year, and they do work on campus as well as off campus. So with time sparing, I'll go ahead and I'll give it to them.
Hi, I am Maya Valdez, and I am Secretary of Project Success. This year, our main focus in the Project Success Club has been mental health and trying to break the stigma around it. While last year we went to different middle schools and we gave presentations about the transition into high school and just helping them prepare for high school.
Hi, my name is Grace Henderson, and I am the EdCore Project Success Vice President. Going off of what Maya already explained, a few of the activities that we've done, we've attended a training in San Francisco all about breaking mental health stigma, and we got some really good tips and tricks from those experts. We've had service dogs come and sit on our campus whenever we feel there's a lot of anxiety on our campus. We've also led a Q&A session after the showing of screenagers, and we answered any questions that parents may have had. And so far we're just getting off the ground and getting our feet and coming up with more ideas. So far we have a few presentations planned.
Hi, my name is Rita Baltazar, and I'm a current member of Let's Bring Change to Mind. And I'm having a really good time so far because this is my first year.
Hi, I'm Yolani Diaz, and I'm a member, and it's really great knowing that you can make a change in your society and your community by just being simply a member of a club that does great all around.
Thank you very much, and if you have any questions about any of the programs through Project Success, you could always call the school. And wow, this is great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So just to finish up, we have a few things. So again, just wanted to reiterate some things that Flash said. So these are our parent outreach. So our goal this year was to have 5 or 6 parent monthly meetings, and we're doing really well with that. So you can see QPR is coming up next month. We had NAMI at the beginning of the year, DAC and CPI. So CPI is coming in February. So again, the support meet and greet we had in September. So that was great where we had all our counseling team there and talking to parents. So again, just our plan, just showing you that our goal is to have at least 1 parent meeting a month for our parents. And that's district-wide. So that's our EdCore. Again, very proud of you girls. Very proud. Middle school outreach, that's them going to the middle schools. So they did that last year. And again, they're working with 3 middle schools, and going to finish that up. They did a drug and alcohol simulation. They talked about it. Very proud of them. They came out and actually had students, and I think Ms. Carter had to put on the beer goggles too and just kind of interact and try to do some drug alcohol simulations and seeing how the kids in the quad. So if any of you have been to Rancho, when you do things in the quad, everybody sees it. So the quad's the place to go. So they were out there doing these activities and different things, so it was great. These are just some numbers just to show you again of our need and also just what a great job our team's doing. The group participation in 2015-16 was 82 members in our groups. And only a semester, we've doubled that to 170. Individual seen last year, the whole year, was 146 in Project Success. We've already doubled that in a semester at 329.
That's awesome.
Parent presentations, we're at 3 in a year. We've already done 4 for half a year. And then prevention education series, we're not done with that obviously because that's a year-long process, but we did 37 classrooms, 769 students last year. So again, just to show you some data that they're working hard and touching a lot of lives. The transition plan is something I'm also proud of that we did this year. So basically when a student, if a student does go on a 5150 and means gets admitted on a 48-hour hold, attempt suicide or wants to attempt suicide, when they come back, we do a transition plan with them. And on that transition plan, there's a student there, the student, the parent, the administrator, counselor, and project success. And we make a plan with that student of how can we help you? What have you learned since you've been gone this past week or this 48 hours? How can we support you? So it's a team conversation about how we can help you and what are the next steps. So we do that with every student coming back as part of our protocol. And then again, just to finish up, again, I appreciate your time. And you know, we're changing mindsets at Rancho. We're doing a lot of, obviously our academic focus is our top, but you can't focus on academics if we don't take care of them as humans. And so we've really focused on changing mindsets and not what's wrong with the person, but what has this person been through and how can we help support you. So again, I want to conclude by saying thank you very much for your continued support. If we didn't have wonderful guidance counselors and the team and all of us working together, our children wouldn't be as successful as they are today. So again, thank you and appreciate it. So.
Item 4, consent agenda. Will Lanny Lowry please come to the podium for public comment?
Lanny Lowry, 6191 San Carlos Court, Roanoke Park. I'm speaking not on behalf of anybody but myself as a taxpayer. Although I am an employee of the school district, I've lived here for 41 years. Last month, I heard some exciting discussion as you talked about different things. More questions asked in December than I've seen in the past 5 years by board members. Thank you. You got a good model for that. Please continue that. And also, you'll be voting on these items tonight, so I'm here not to just listen to you vote. I can hear that. I want to hear why you're voting for what you're voting for. And last month, I saw something that I hadn't seen, and of course, I had to view it on the screen because you had your board meeting while I was employed with the students. But I saw 3 abstentions. When you abstain, board members, please explain why you're abstaining. Thank you.
Thank you.
President Farrell, may I respond to that question about abstaining, because that referred to me?
There's a time and a place for that. This isn't the time during public comment.
Trustee Orloff, do you remember last year when a member of the public during public comment made a comment and you responded to them and had a conversation with them? I think it was Mark Jewell.
No, I talked to Mark Jewell during break. I do remember.
No, it was during public comment. You responded to his question.
I don't recall that.
Okay, well.
The Brown Act answer would be a brief reciting of information would be fine. Anything extended beyond that would not be an agendized item.
Could I make a brief response? Thank you. I abstained from certain votes at my first board meeting because the district did not provide me with an independent aid and I didn't have access to the materials as a person who's blind. And I felt it was not responsible to vote on something when I didn't have access to the materials or an aid to read the materials, which you can see I do not have yet. And I've had to retain legal counsel to stand up for my rights. And just in conclusion, in reference to my responsibility and role as a trustee to be an advocate for students, I can't stand up for the rights of students who are denied accommodations if that happens in special education or in other areas. If I'm not willing to stand up for my own rights as a blind person under the Americans with Disabilities Act. Thank you very much.
Item 4, consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve items, the consent agenda items A, B, F, and G?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All those in, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda item 4C, ratification of agreement with Industrial Carting 2016 to 2022.
So I pulled C and D because they were not on the attachments. I didn't have the information from them. I was going to go away unexpectedly for a couple days this weekend. I got back late last night, and they were not on the attachments. So I was in meetings all day today. I was able to pull one of them off and got questions about the next one. But I'd like that explanation, since I haven't read the agreement with Industrial Cartage. And I know there were some problems with the fees and stuff, what that, I'd like to see a summary of that. Can Ann give that or whatever?
Well, as you know, we bid it out months ago. The only response that we got was very, very high. We had it listed under item 12A.
No, I realize
say
that.
multiple months, and we've negotiated the best fee that we can get. We looked at whether or not there were any alternatives in the area, and there aren't.
So is our fee going up and how much?
Yes, our fee is definitely going up from what it was at before, yes.
How much is that?
If you want a full report, we can certainly do that at a future agenda. I mean, the contract is there.
Well, I
realize
just,
that,
I didn't have time to print off the contract
Understand.
today, so, I just want a copy of the contract so I can review that. Sure, you got that? This contract went into effect December 2nd, 2016?
Correct. They've been hauling our trash.
This
all
is a
along.
new contract which we
Correct.
signed, yes, okay. And so they're picking up all the trash from our district, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And what was the, does this tell me what the increase was from last year to this year?
If you would like to see a comparison of that, we can provide that under our fiscal item next month.
What? Yes, I would. All I see from this scanning over it briefly looks like we're going to pay $2,049.30 per week. Is that correct?
You have it in front of you. I don't have it in front of me at the moment, so I'll rely on your.
Okay. Times 52. Okay. And yeah, I'd just like to know what it was last year to this year. I know we were upset about the price increases. I just wanted to know what those were.
Understood.
We've been going crazy.
For me?
I was just saying the prices for the garbage has been skyrocketing for everybody.
No, I know. I was just wanting to know what it was, since I didn't have a chance to read it. Okay.
Under next month's fiscal services item, we can show that.
I move we ratify the agreement with Industrial Carting for the years 2016 through 2022.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries. Item D, ratification of agreement with Hertzer Inspection Services for Rancho Cotati High School Tag Building.
It's a correction, it's Hertzer, it's spelled H-I-R-T-Z-E-R, for the agreement. Question, this agreement's for $340,000 for inspection services for 12 months, also signed on 12/21. So last board meeting I asked for an agenda item so we could get expenditure levels, and that's not here again, and here's a $340,000 purchase agreement that I see for the first time today. So I would like to still see what our expenditure authorization levels are.
Trustee Brown, could you repeat that total, please?
It's this contract for inspection services, which I know we need, is $340,000 for 20 months at $17,000 a month for an inspector to inspect, which is a requirement when you build for the tag building. And so the questions I have for Hertzer inspection, how many employees do they have? Does anybody know?
He's the inspector of record.
So he has one employee.
We're contracting with Mr. Hertz.
Okay, just Mr. So since it doesn't look like we went to bid for this with other inspectors, so I guess my question is, what's his experience level?
His experience level is very high. We actually did quite a bit of research. The reason that we want to get him under contract is that with the number of projects coming online and the significant time commitment to this one, if we don't, then we won't be able to secure an inspector of record.
No, I realize that. And then also you needed inspector of record prior to any permits issued, correct? That's usually the law.
We need an inspector of record when we are under construction and any work is taking place that has to be approved and certified through DSA.
Right. So this does not include any special inspections or lab testing, correct? So this individual will be on site for this agreement 40 hours a week, watching the construction being done and doing the documentation.
Correct. For
What happens,
all of our projects.
There's no clause in this contract that says if Kurt Hertzer gets injured or something happens to him for completion of his contract for continuity. So what I'd like to see is some guarantee that says if he takes on more work, I'd like to see the same inspector start the tag building and stay with it through the end of the tag building. Especially since this proposal is $17,000 a month, or roughly $100 an hour for his work. So those are some of the concerns I have about that, and there's no stipulation in here as to if anything happens to him for cancellation.
Well, if he doesn't perform the services, he doesn't get paid. So
no, I realize that, but at the same time, for the continuity of the project, I sure hate to get stuck in the middle of it.
Again, that's the point of why we negotiated this.
No, I understand that, but I mean, if something happens to him, there's no guarantee, and he has no obligation to backfill.
Well, correct, there would be no guarantee regardless.
But he doesn't get paid either.
So, if for some reason we were under contract with someone who perform services and they stopped performing them, we would have to get someone else to perform those services.
Right, and that could be an issue, I think. That's why I'm a little bit leery of working with a one individual person. There's a risk there, in my mind.
In my experience, which is pretty extensive, most of these inspector of records contract for themselves. They don't come from firms.
I've also had experience where they come from firms. So when I built buildings in the city and other places, we've had people from firms.
That's a substantially different area of the code. There's a division of state architect and the ed code are completely different.
But those same inspectors could do this work too.
They have to be certified through DSA.
Well, I know an architect that is been certified and he works for a firm and there's a number of people. So anyway, there's certain risks to this that I'm just not there. And then when we do the special inspections, lab testing, there's very few labs up here, so most of those testings are done down in the Bay Area. So are we in the process of trying to find a special inspector too at this time?
We will secure all the inspection services that we need for all of our projects.
Okay. So are we going to do that? Well, I guess we don't know who. Or if we do a lease purchase option, would the lease purchase person be?
If it's an inspection required by DSA, by the independent inspector of record,
right,
it would not be performed by the contractor. No.
No, I'm saying would the contractor hire that special inspector?
No, we have to contract directly with any inspector of record to report to DSA.
I have a follow-up question on, why was this not bid out? Could you clarify that?
There are limited number of certified inspectors in any area, and we put out proposals. So it's not that there's different processes to find different types of services. So in a sense it is, it just goes by a different name. But this is a period of time where securing inspection services can be pretty difficult to do.
So, just to clarify why it wasn't bid out, because you're saying it was too difficult?
So that's not what I said. I said the process can go by different names depending upon the service that we are looking for.
So this bid
So again,
process-
this is, if you would like in the
so this
future.
was- this was not a bid process where we advertised and went out to bid for it. We just, how did we select Crpusd?
We requested services, but I mean, I could certainly have our facilities director come. He's the one who implements this process. If you'd like to have more information on it.
Yeah, I think what I'm concerned about, what Trustee Brown said, is I don't have the experience he has in this process. But what I'm concerned about is the continuity issue that he raised, that if it all depends on one person, and there are inspection services that Trustee Brown said exist that have multiple.
I would certainly like to have the name of that.
Excuse me, Superintendent.
I'll provide you with that.
That'd be great.
Then if there are these inspection services with multiple employees, which seems to me safer to have multiple employees, so we have ensure continuity, then it seems like the bidding out the contract would be a more wise decision. I mean, I'm just saying as a layperson.
Right, so what I've already explained is that in my experience, the inspectors of record do perform those services on their own. I would love to hear of a firm that has multiple inspectors certified by DSA. That would be fantastic to hear, and I look forward to getting that information.
Okay.
I'm not aware of it,
Okay.
but I would certainly stand corrected if you have the name of that firm. If we do not get under contract and the time comes to start performing the construction, then we will not be able to proceed.
No, I realize that.
Okay. Can I get a motion to ratify the agreement with Crpusd Inspection Services for Rancho Cotati High School Tag Building?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, motion carries. Item E, ratification of memorandum of understanding with the Line Foundation for Vocational Training Program, January to May 2017.
Yeah, I pulled this just so I could understand. It sounds like a great program, and we've had similar program, work-related development. I know Cole does some great stuff over in his. So who brought this in? Is this part of our Cole's program, or how did this Lime organization come forward, and how are they gonna do it? And it looks like it might be directed a lot towards roofing, but it says other construction. So I'd just like to know some more about it.
Beyond what's written in the MOU?
Yes.
Again, if the board would want a future report on that, this is something that was brought to us by staff at Rancho Cotati High School.
Yeah, it's just gonna, I'm curious to see how many kids would go through this, and how many of them would go from this to a job in a trade, or is this just roofing, or is this plumbing, or is, electricians?
There's been a lot already written on it left. There's opportunities here for students to go from mentorship to job placement through this company. which will provide them with training in conjunction with our district. It's a great program. I think it's a great job. I think Angie Scardina, who I know worked on it extensively, has done something awesome for our students.
Yeah, I'm not,
And
just want to know more about it.
it's got no cost to it. It can only help our students be job ready and prepared in the trades once they leave school, which is what we're striving for in this district. I wholeheartedly endorse this. And Amy, if you can extend to Angie my thanks, I would appreciate it.
I know from speaking to a lot of different people in the trades, it's a lot harder to find good employees. I believe Letitia, who owns ARS Roofing, is part of the nonprofit that put it together and is trying to get more students to go in that direction if that's what they're looking at. So I'm sure she worked really hard with Angie to get this going. I know I've heard conversations and different pieces of them wanting to put something like this together for a long time.
And it's what's cool about it is it's not aimed or geared to be male dominated.
Right.
And that's what's impressive. I'd like to make a motion that we ratify the memorandum of understanding with Lime Foundation for Vocational Training Program, January through May 2017.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Any trustees would like us to arrange, I'm sure Principal Carter would be happy to host trustees and show off the implementation of the program. Be happy to send that information out.
Item 5, educational services. No requests for public comment for this item were received, so we'll move to item A, college readiness block grant. Dr. Haley.
I'd like to ask Julie Senior to come to the podium. She's going to talk about this exciting opportunity again at Rancho Cotati High School.
Rancho's been really busy. Good evening. One of the things I want to talk about tonight is the College Readiness Block Grant. And tonight you've heard the name Gloriana Diaz mentioned a few times, and she is our college and career counselor. This is an incredible position, and this grant that we've applied for, we should receive no less than $75,000 because we serve at least one unduplicated pupil. And as a condition of this grant, we need to hold a discussion and develop a plan to how we would spend the money. And the money would be spent with continuing her position or the position of the college and career counselor to increase student access to college and career. The role of the college and career counselor falls well with our LCAP goals, both 1 and 2. And again, as a requirement, we would have to monitor and measure some success metrics and what's the impact of the college and career counselor. Doing that would be through the number of student contacts this person has, looking at other data such as graduation rates, college acceptance rates, A through G course completion, and internships developed like you've just talked about with the Lime Foundation. As the other requirement, this was a meeting to talk about what it would happen, and then in our February board meeting, I would ask that you would adopt our plan and moving forward.
Any questions for Dr. Senior?
Item B, local control accountability plan update, student achievement report.
Who's the presenter?
So again, we have Dr. Senior, and I'll allow her to introduce her fellow presenters to update us on the local control accountability plan and specifically elements of student achievement.
Fantastic, thank you. I will be going through a little bit of our LCAP update, and I will ask our couple of our principals and some teachers to come up as well from John Reed and Waldo Ronert, TMS, and Rancho. So starting with our favorite topic, everybody, it's the LCAP. And one of the things that really we are working on this year with LCAP is to know that it's a continuous process of investigation, of looking at student data. And I say continuous process because it does not end. There is no start point, there is no end point. We are always striving to increase student achievement. And so this is, again, areas that we have to address. The LCAP addresses 8 state priorities. These priorities range from curriculum, Common Core implementation, parent engagement, student achievement, pupil engagement, school climate, access to a rigorous curriculum, and then once the curriculum's been delivered, how are our outcomes, and what do we do, and how do we review this information? We have the LCAP is a 3-year plan. Right now, I've just put 2016-2017 LCAP goals up here, and these goals were created through a number of stakeholder meetings, lots of review with our County Office of Education, and basically we focus Goal 1 talks about the implementation of curriculum and professional development. Goal 2 talks about the courses that we offer and how we are truly supporting our unduplicated pupils. I use the term unduplicated pupils to refer to our English language learners, our at-risk students, which include students with low socioeconomic status, foster youth, homeless youth, and students with special needs. Again, big goal is to have all students have access and be eligible to take our AP, honors class, CTE courses. That is our ultimate goal, that we have a similar population in all of these classes. Goal 3 focuses on creating optimum learning environments for both students and staff. And Goal 4 is truly developing community partnerships. How do we partner with our parents, our community, to provide the best education possible? Again, our 3 main areas is how are we strengthening teaching and learning? How are we measuring the impact that we have on our students? How are we increasing the capacity of our teachers, of our leaders, everybody in the system? And our 3rd goal is our institutional capacities. How are we always looking at improving constantly? I want to talk a little bit about this year's professional development activities that we've done. And it's been a busy year, and I thank all the teachers and our staff and administrators. It has been amazing with trainings this year. I'd say one of our primary groups that we work with is our action learning systems, and this falls within Goal 1 of our LCAP to truly make sure that we are implementing Common Core curriculum with fidelity and having student achievement. We've had kind of a 3-year plan with them, and this year we're focusing very heavily on English language arts. Next year we'll focus on math, and in year 3 we will look at science and rigor, making sure that everything that we've done and implemented is what we're supposed to be doing. This year we've had all K-5 teachers go through a professional development 2-day training with them. We also have 3 sites at the elementary that have been trained in direct interactive instruction. And this program kind of talks about lesson design, and it's followed with coaching and lots of feedback through some outside providers. We've had, at the secondary level, all English teachers trained. They were trained last year, but this year we've worked for disciplinary lit training with our social studies teachers, with our science teachers, with our PE teachers, and with our elective teachers. So we've done a lot of work around writing, literary design, and this year also, we're in our 2nd semester of working with the direct interactive instruction with Technology Middle School, Thomas Page Elementary, and Rancho Cotati High School. And we're really trying to make sure all of our teachers at the site are trained, and then we'll move in the next couple of years to make sure everybody receives the training. And this past summer, we had an opportunity for folks to bring, at the elementary level, to bring their units to come and talk with some of the experts from Action Learning Systems to get feedback on their curriculum. We've also sent folks to a number of conferences, and the conferences range from English Language Learner Development, joining a collaborative at Sonoma County Office of Education. We've sent a number of our secondary math teachers to Asilomar. We've sent teachers to Next Generation Science Standards conferences and have brought in some in-house trainers. And we've worked really closely with Restorative Justice Collaborative. In addition, we've also sent some folks, I forgot to put it up here, but lots of project-based learning conferences as well, and in-house trainings. We have worked with Language Exclamation Point, which is an English language development program, which focuses on bringing up our English skills for struggling learners and our English language learners. At the elementary level, we've worked with CAM Consulting and really trying to focus and hone in on phonics, fluency, and reading comprehension at the elementary level to make sure our kids are prepared to read as they leave our elementary group and start tackling more and more difficult material at the secondary level. We've had a number of special education trainings, conflict de-escalation, how to work with students with autism, behavior disorders. You name it, we've had a lot of wonderful trainings in that area. We have sent a number of teachers to AVID, which is a secondary program at the high school level. It stands for Advancement via Individual Determination, geared towards first-generation college students. and really trying to wrap supportive services around these kids 9 through 12th grade, get them into college. We've sent a number of teachers on AP teacher trainings. So we've sent folks to AP Spanish training, calculus trainings, all through this, and this changes every year depending on the needs of our staff and what trainings we need. We're sending folks to CATA, which is the California Association of Directors of Student Activities, really helping to promote positive school climate and culture at the secondary level. So we're sending folks from TMS, LJ, Rancho, and I can't remember if we're sending anybody, and from Tech High as well. We also have folks who have attended the California League of Middle Schools conferences and have presented there. And then, as President Bodlovich mentioned a little while ago, we've had a couple voluntary work days, which have been really great opportunities to differentiate the curricular needs of our staff. So we've been able to offer a variety of different trainings and have teachers self-select the trainings they wanted to attend. Things like Google Classroom, more NGSS trainings. We've had an online option working with Stanford and Google through our online professional learning platform with Redbird. And again, more PBL training and technology in the classroom and working in PLCs. And so how did we come to pick some of these professional development opportunities? What does our data tell us? We look really closely at our data and where do we need to drill down and make sure we're helping build teacher capacity. Data drives our decision making. You know, we say we develop a 3-year plan with LCAP, but if we find that there's areas where we're not meeting student needs, then we might have to change that plan to make sure we're addressing those needs. We have a laser focus upon student achievement. That's what we're all here for. We want to make sure our kids are college ready, are career ready when they leave our system. And we are constantly gathering stakeholder feedback and input. Today we had the TK 5 2-hour grade collaboration where we got to meet with everyone. And one of the big things is, are we still going on the right path? Give us your feedback. We're going to look at data and what does PD tell us that we need? And we're constantly monitoring our progress. So one of the measures that we look at when we start talking about LCAP is our CASP results. And so this is one of the multiple measures that we use. I am going to go rather quickly through a lot of data and slides, and then you'll hear from some of our site leaders and some teachers to talk about 3 areas that are really going well at their site and 3 areas of focus that we need to improve. But just so that we know kind of our baseline data with CASP was the 2015 was the first time that we got our results. And district-wide, 40% of our students were meeting standard in ELA and 29% were meeting standard in math. That gives us a lot of room to grow. But in the next year, in the 2016, we went up 3% in English at 43% and 30% in math. Again, our staffs are aware that this is an area of focus for us. Okay, and thank you, Trustee Farrell and Trustee Brown have seen this presentation before, gave me great feedback, and just so you can all see, we're going to break this into different subcategories for our English language learners, for everybody, but just starting with our English language arts, we had 3,030 students tested. And what we want is kids in the green. We don't want red and orange, we want kids in the green. So that's kind of our goal to move into that direction. Of these students tested, you can see kind of on the bar graph where students are falling. And you'll see some that say blank. These students either opted out of testing, were absent, and didn't make makeup days. So that's kind of why you see 40 students here blank. Just going through. Here's kind of distribution by grade level. So you can see, again, it's a little bit challenging. I apologize. It's small, trying to get all the information here. But the number of students that were tested and percentage of where they fell. Again, green is good. No orange and red.
Can you explain what grades we also test?
Oh, absolutely. So we start testing in 3rd grade, 3rd through 8th grade tests, and 11th grade at the high school level.
Thank you.
Sure. Again, kind of for an ethnic breakdown between among Hispanic, white, and other students. Again, it's an area that we need to focus upon. Is our achievement gap growing? Is it an opportunity gap? How are we addressing this need? Again, an area of concern. We have 313 special education students in the district, and we have a lot of room to grow in terms of making these students eligible at grade level to be standard met. Again, economically disadvantaged students. area of focus, a lot of support services being developed around these students to make sure that they are eligible and can access curriculum. Again, with our English language learners, we have 580 students that tested. Of those, again, we have a lot of room to grow for their EL population. Hence the unduplicated pupil counts and how are we supporting these students. Math results. So again, we're back to 3,030 students who tested. Want more green. If I'm going too quickly, please stop. I'm just going through the data.
And our next test results will be?
We won't get those probably, we got them at the end of July, August. Okay. So probably not till 2017, August.
Okay.
So we'll have comparison. That'll help with the 3 years now too. Right. I think teachers have had a couple years of testing under their belt. Lots of questions that we talk about all the time too is this an issue of students not understanding the test, or is it an issue of them having issues with the technology and manipulating the technology too? So there's a lot of things that we're trying to do to address that. Okay. Again, math scores by racial identity. Again, just you're kind of seeing a pattern, so we know that we definitely need to do a better job with our unduplicated pupils. And this has all been reviewed by the LCAP committee. So this presentation was given to our LCAP committee. We're looking at it, we're talking about it, we're seeing if the goals and the action steps that we have set forth are going to meet our needs and improve. And that's what I said, the constant progress monitoring that you're hearing about. English language learners, again, need to support our English language learners. Access to the curriculum. The Common Core Math has a lot more language in the actual mathematical practices. How are we supporting our students with that? And again, here's just a quick comparison. Blue, for the folks can see, is English, and the orangey color is math. Standards not met. We're doing better in English, and we still can do much better, and in math as well, we just need to improve. I'll go through kind of rapidly. El Camino, we had 16 students test. So just so again, when you're looking at numbers.
And those would just be 11th graders?
Correct, just the 11th graders. We did better.
How many students are in El Camino?
El Camino is, I would say 60 total.
60? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Technology height, we did better there. Lawrence Jones. Again, I'm going to go a little bit more rapidly through this is all available. And again, teachers are very well aware of this. Administrators have gone over the data with them. Folks are talking about it and how we need to improve.
And you've covered a lot of slides, and I know we have endeavored to provide these presentations in advance where we can for our trustees, but if any trustee wants to sit with you in a small group or individually, go over this, we'd be more than willing to do that, and also on the further updates with the LCAP committee.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Next week, January 23rd, anybody is welcome. Please come to the LCAP.
We know that for any trustee, it can be hard to follow a presentation
Sure.
with multiple slides with lots
of numbers and lots of data.
Make sure that all of you are aware of that. We can set up a special meeting or the next LCAP meeting. And
Please, absolutely. So I'm just going to go through, again, these are all, I'm just going to skip through these real quickly now. It's all here for us to look at. Let me see. Just kind of do a quick thing of growth so you can just see the difference. Again, for English language arts, and this is district-wide, we've gone down 9 points from the previous year, so that's something our special ed teams are really looking at and working with.
Special ed students.
Yes,
Correct.
yes, excuse me.
Not as a whole.
Oh yeah, no, correct, I'm sorry. This is broken into categories. Students with, and I'm sorry, it's students that are economically disadvantaged, I apologize. Students economically disadvantaged went down 9 points. Our EL students went up 1, yay. Students with disabilities went up 2. And RFEP, which stands for Redesignated Fluent English Proficient, still waiting to gather data for that. That'll be my next report with more information about the SELT results as well. And then in math, students economically disadvantaged went down 1%. English language learners went down 1%. Students with disabilities went down 2%. And again, I'll get the data for you as soon as it becomes available with the redesignated students. We went up at Tech High. We went up at Rancho. We've gone up in English, language arts at LJ and down in math. We went up at Tech Middle. We've gone down by 1% at Monte Vista, while the Roner has stayed the same. We've gone up at Hahn, gone up at Evergreen. UELF did not test because of such small numbers, and they didn't have the grade level at 2014-15 school year, so we have 1 year of data for UELF. TPA went up in English and down in math. And just kind of comparisons with our state data. So, I'm sorry, the numbers are real small here. Just so you can see, we're not that far off the mark in terms of the state. Again, having states has 52% of students with not meeting standard. And this is all, I'm not going for any particular grade level. And in math, they are down 63% of students are not meeting standards. So we're not that far off from the state. For the county, county is 51% students not meeting standard for the English language arts, and also at the math, 64%.
Can I ask a question, Dr. Senior?
Sure.
Under the STAR system and the API and the AYP, there was the similar schools ranking. Has that been completely done away with by the state? Or is there still a similar schools feature in there somewhere?
It's somewhere, and kind of the state's moving to a new measuring
Right,
system.
we're supposed to get a whole new...
Right, and I can tell you about that at the next LCAP update. So we are going through a different way, and they're going to basically average grades. So you average 3 years of data, and then that will kind of be, they don't have schools and program improvement anymore. That'll be it's a whole 5x5
But for instance,
matrix.
comparing us to, Mountain View, Los Altos or something,
Yeah.
wouldn't make sense, right?
No.
But so are they going to break it down? Or?
I will let you know. They're still trying to decide that. They're hoping at the end of January, the State Board of Education is supposed to get back to us.
Okay.
So no problem. I have an LCAP meeting in 2 weeks. I'll give you more data from SCO.
Dr. Senior?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that the scores for English were lower than you wanted, and there's room for growth. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
And
50%.
yeah, I'm new to the board, of course, but I've heard that you don't do writing samples anymore. Ask students to give writing samples to look at those.
No, we do. We definitely do. And I know I just had a meeting with one of the gals from LJ, and we were talking about some of the great things they were doing at LJ to make sure they were getting writing samples.
So what were the results of the writing samples?
To be determined. So they were doing benchmark writing samples. So I will
How long has that been going on?
let's see, I'd have to check with Principal Johnson, but I know they've been looking at that for sure this year. We've had benchmark assessments in the past, and so I'm assuming that that's been done.
Right, because as a writer, I know that you get better as a writer by writing, and you work with editors all the time, and the best editors I've had are the toughest ones, and what you need to look at.
Damn, ready.
Yeah,
Right.
You need to look at the writing samples to determine what a student needs to work on, and if you're not looking at the writing samples, then you're not going to be able to help that student.
Correct.
And so I would hope that there would be a systematic practice of putting that in your evaluation process and determining how to grow the improvement in English.
Sure. At the elementary level, too, we focus on CAM, some writing. So there's a lot of emphasis and focus placed upon writing at the elementary level, and there have been, and then again, samples and benchmarks as well. High school, I know, I guarantee you every English teacher is working real hard to make sure that they've got lots of samples of writing.
And then I've heard from teachers that Earth Sciences is going to be eliminated for the next academic year.
Yes, and I'm going to let Principal Carter talk about that in a second. So that's forthcoming in the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, and I am going to turn, any other questions right now? Okay, I'm going to turn this over to Susan and Monica from Waldo and John Reed to talk a little bit about 3 areas of success and 3 areas of growth.
Okay, so at John Reed and Waldo Roner, we serve many of the unduplicated count that Dr. Sinyard was referring to. And I think that we do a pretty good job. We have programs in place that we have followed and developed over a number of years. And we are sister schools. John Reed is transitional kindergarten, 2nd grade, and Waldo Roner is grades 3 to 5. So we have large groups of teachers at each grade level to work together collaboratively, which I believe enriches the curriculum. And we do things together because we are sister schools and we share families. So we try to have a culture of achievement. We make it clear to the children that their goal is to come to school and to learn what they need to learn to be successful adults. We focus on early childhood literacy, which I think that we have been relatively successful at. We have every child screened using a norm screener, and then we separate the children into groups that have like need students in the groups. We also monitor the children who are struggling and to make sure that the interventions they are receiving are effective. We do this as an ongoing process. Children who are in intervention groups are progress monitored every few weeks. We are just in the process right now of changing up big groups of children so that their needs and the instructions are well matched. We have a strong response to intervention program where we have the children come in. Not all the children who are receiving small group instruction are special education students. We go by children's needs. If the child is identified, they may well be in a group with a child who is just struggling and needs that type of intervention. We use data. We look at the data very carefully, and we use it to drive our instruction and decide what kind of programs are effective, what kind of groupings, what's working, what's not. And we've had some good growth with the language development. Waldo Roner and John Reed do a school-wide rotation for ELD that everybody participates in, including the native English speakers. Of course, the children who are learning English are leveled by CELT, and the native English speakers are in a different group. But we have a good progress for our students who generally make 50 points on the CELT, which is the expected growth every year. We would like to, of course, see that increase, but they do a good job with that.
So this is some examples of some of the data that we take. We take data on every individual student at both schools. This is one of our 3rd grade classes. You can see that 72% of the students are on track to meet their, and this is English language arts, to meet their reading goals this year. Another way to look at the class is you can see what students are on average to achieve benchmark, how many are above average, and then several children that have IEPs or custom-made goals. We have many newcomers that come to the school directly from other countries. And so we provide them with a custom educational day. We also, this is just an example of how we do groupings. We have teachers that are trained at every level, and the students are moved in the groups according to how much they progress with their reading achievement.
So we do strive towards a growth model. We feel like we're doing a good job, but we can always do better. We always look to do better. We, this year, won an award for attendance, for improved attendance, which was great, because we did have trouble with attendance, and it's hard for the kids to learn if they're not there. And the flexible counseling is, we have a lot of children who have a great deal of need. They sometimes have great crises in their lives, and unfortunately and sadly, we have so many of these children that it does interfere with their school day and the way that they are able to learn and to be at school. And we're currently looking at working with our school psychologists to kind of, the way we have rotations for academic things, we're looking to bring in an emotional component to this for counseling for those children of high needs so that more students can be seen during the day, but we could absolutely use more support on that.
Could you clarify what you mean by more support?
If we had, of course, our school psychologist is very busy doing IEPs and seeing children who are on IEPs, individualized education plans, who have counseling services in that. She also does testing for the special education.
So she's overloaded?
I don't know that she's overloaded, but she certainly would be if she saw everyone who needed to be seen. Some of the children just have something that has come up very serious in their life as a sudden event, and then some children have ongoing issues that they're working through. And so our hope would be that we would be able to have a child in need, have someone to speak to, and get the support they need at school.
Who would that person be?
We employ the school psychologist at both sites, but if we had a separate counselor that could work with groups of students at both sites, it would be phenomenal.
So a part-time or full-time?
Well, it'd be great if we had somebody full-time between the two sites.
And you think that would have an effect on academic achievement?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And we would also really think that embedded ELD curriculum would be a huge help. So not just the half hour a day that we do ELD, but to really have it in the content area. And there's curriculum out there are trainings out there to really make that a powerful tool for growth for our students, because even though our children do make the growth that is the minimum required, I think that the ELD is a big component in their entire journey through education. What kind of vocabulary they have, their writing ability, their speaking ability, and their ability to oral instruction. And so that would be a very beneficial tool for us. And our last being the outreach and retention of our neighborhood children. We have a great deal of children in our neighborhood and in our attendance boundary lines, who choose to go other places. And it would be wonderful if they decided to come to us, because we're great schools.
We're doing a number of outreach things now to reach the neighborhood children. We're developing brochures. We've updated our web pages, and we're also doing a new Twitter feed and Facebook page for both schools. So we are attempting to do more parent outreach and neighborhood outreach.
What's the percentage of Latinos in your school?
Oh, I would say we're probably somewhere around 70%, and socioeconomic is about 85, 86%.
I'm sorry, did you say 70% Latino in your school?
Probably, about
And
70%.
do you have, you were talking about reading and improving reading, do you have enough materials in Spanish?
We do not teach in Spanish except for the newcomers as a bridge to English. Our instruction is all in English, and it is the immersion model. And so our hope is really to get the children immersed in English as quickly as possible. And they make a huge amount of growth, particularly at John Reed. Many of our kindergartners come to school with very, very limited English. And by the end of the year, they're making often 1-2 steps on the English language proficiency scale. So they show a lot of growth.
They're scoring at average with the other schools in the district, if not a little bit higher. And so we're really proud of that, because a lot of them start without any English skills at all.
So, I mean, I'm sorry to keep pressing on this issue as a writer, but reading had transformed me. That's why I got turned on to education, is through books and reading, and teachers who used books for us. And now I listen to audiobooks because I can't read anymore. But so I'm interested in this idea of improving in reading. What do you think would work in terms of improving the reading?
Well, you know, when I say reading, I don't mean actually just the decoding. I am speaking of academic proficiency, which would be reading instead of learning to read, reading to learn. And because that is not just a set of phonics or reading rules, but really being able to understand what the content area is, having enough background in a subject area, and being able to interact in academic language, which is, of course, is very different than just spoken casual language. And that is truly our goal. Our reading scores are, while they can always grow, we do a very good job teaching children to read. And I am proud of the fact that so many of our children have made such great growth and have made that first real step towards academic success. Because if you teach someone to read, you change their world. So that's what we do at John Reed and Waldo Roner. And I just have to make a plug that last year on the test scores that we talked about, our 5th grade class at Waldo Roner scored 10 points above the district average, which, considering that, you know, our student population are often the most at-risk students, that's enormously, that's a great achievement, I think, for our school and for our teachers and for the kids. So, thank you.
Will Principal McKee and teachers Don Rasmussen and Jenny Mason come on up to the mic, please. Good evening. We are going to do the same as John Reed Waldo. We are going to talk about 3 things that are going well for us this year and 3 things we are still working on. 3 things that are going well for us this year are project-based learning and our restorative practices training. We have contracted through SCO, and we have trainers coming a couple times a month. We have a wide range of different levels of our teachers who have been practicing project-based learning, so we're trying to kind of combine train towards the middle and get everybody caught up so that everybody's on the same page with project-based learning. It's one of our big pushes here at Technology Middle School. The other part is the direct interactive instruction that Dr. Sinyard had spoke about earlier. I think our entire staff, maybe -5 teachers, have been trained. And this really ties into the direct instruction of project-based learning. So the training is followed up by coaching days where the trainer goes in and watches the teacher, gives some tips and tricks. And then the next thing is our school culture. We're still a fairly new school, and we are still building our school culture. This year, we have changed up our sports a bit. Instead of soccer, we decided to do flag football, which had a big draw for a lot of our kids. They really enjoyed that. We, in the next month or so, will be starting lacrosse. And then, you know, we have our volleyball, basketball, cross country, and we had a lot of interest this year. We have our leadership class. This is, I think the first year at Tech Middle. There might have been one other year, but we're starting it up again. It's all 8th graders. Next year will be open to 7th and 8th graders. But they've been doing a great job putting on dances and lunchtime events and stuff like that. We have intramural sports such as soccer. What else do we do? Soccer's sticking out in my mind because, oh yes, and then we always have a staff versus students game of some kind, which gets very, very competitive. I'll let you know when the next one is, because the teachers do not want to lose. We also have lunchtime clubs, and those vary year to year in whatever the students are interested in. So here's just a couple pictures. This bottom picture is taken in our new design lab, which is up and running, and it's been awesome. We're just trying to get as many kids in there and making. And this middle picture is project-based learning project that Mr. Rasmussen and Ms. Mason did with their 6th graders. And up here is our leadership group, who are goofy, but they are go-getters. The 3 things that we're working on are student engagement strategies to increase the rigor and relevance in the classroom. And I think that the project-based learning and the DII training will really help with this. And because we are working on student engagement strategies, we're hoping, and we've kind of seen our suspension rate go down a bit because the students are more engaged in the classrooms and learning. We're always working on rigor and the relevance of what we're teaching our students.
And just like John Reed Waldo, we are focusing on communication and outreach with our parents and families. We're going to revamp our webpage, do Facebook, Twitter, that kind of stuff. So, do you guys have anything to say?
Oh, I have a question. You mentioned restorative justice at Tech Middle School. And I've spoken to educators and yard supervisors. Is that the term, yard supervisors?
Campus supervisor?
Campus supervisors, sorry. And they've told me an interpretation of restorative justice being practiced at Tech Middle School that I find highly disturbing, where students have threatened teachers, sworn at teachers, spit at teachers, and then are sent to the office and released immediately back. Is that what restorative justice means?
No. That's not what it means.
Then why does that happen?
You know what, I really can't comment on that because that's not.
Well, could you define
that's not everything that has
how
happened.
restorative justice is practiced at Tech Middle School?
We're in the early stages of it. And right now, we're working on just building relationships with the students.
There's two segments to this. There's restorative justice and restorative practices. Restorative practices is developing the relationship with the student.
I'm sorry, could you identify yourself?
Oh yes, I'm Don Rasmussen, 6th grade teacher here at the middle school, at the Tech Middle School. We are part of what is called the ESTEAM team for 6th grade. So I don't laugh at it. It's, the ESTEAM stands for Encouraging Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Mathematics. And we incorporate that into our project-based learning system. But there's two parts. There's the restorative justice and restorative practices. We're currently working on the restorative practices of developing relationships in a positive way with the students so that we could hold the conversations with the kids so that we could restore them back into the classroom. Because a lot of times after a kid is sent out, there is this negative feeling when they come in, both from the person who's been hurt and the person who was sent out. And so to restore that relationship so the classroom could continue working on is what we're working on now.
So would you say if a student spit at a campus supervisor or an educator or swore at them or threatened them and they were sent to the office and then immediately within 1 minute sent back, would you say that that's an example of restorative practice or restorative justice? Is that a good reflection of those policies?
First off, we have not had the policies in place yet. We're doing the early stages of it and such, the restorative justice part where a person is in trouble.
No, I'm just saying theoretically.
No, I'm not going to talk theoretics, I'm going to talk practice. In this way, if a person is sent up to the office, we haven't changed our discipline policies or anything else of that sort. They're handled with the administration. The other part is we're starting with restorative justice and practices, and that beginning is that relationship. That's what we're saying. Thank you.
I think that might be an excellent topic for a future meeting. Our Director of Student Services, Matt Marshall, could update. We have had grants and implementation of restorative practices in different parts of our district. I think that would be worthy of a good board discussion and update. I'll make sure we can get that scheduled.
Sure, yeah, that'd be great. And Superintendent Haley, would you say that if a student threatens an educator or a campus supervisor and is sent to the office and immediately sent back, is that, in your opinion, a good practice?
I would tend to agree with the teacher, Don Rasmussen. I prefer not to talk in hypotheticals. I would wait for the report and hear more directly from the people implementing restorative practices what they think, and look at a specific incident if it occurred. And there could be a variety of reasons involving a student where many people might not know everything that's been done. Having been a site principal and a person responsible for student discipline for many, many, many years, people often make assertions, nothing happened, or I don't, because they don't know. Because when it comes to students, we do guard confidentiality very closely. But so let's not deal in hypotheticals. Let's ask our Student Services Director to prepare a report and update the board, and that would be a great time for for perhaps hypothetical questions or
Well,
actual
no,
insights?
I just use the term hypothetical because he didn't want to talk about the program, but no, this actually happened. And
Well, I've had, over the years, many people assert that they know with certainty something that happened, and usually there's more to the circumstances often than is known.
Well, I believe the educator and the campus supervisor I talked to, they have integrity and they didn't make this up.
Absolutely. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is often there's more to the story than necessarily everyone knows. But we could also ask for a look at any specific incidents and use those as a case study. I think that would be very worthy of our time. So I'll discuss that with our student services director.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would like to call Principal Carter to the microphone to discuss Rancho. All right, Rancho County High School. Our motto for the year this year has been one dream, one team. And this is a hard-won motto because we spent all of last school year examining data. So what you're about to see this evening is something that we're very aware of, we've had a lot of discussions about, and that's really been our focus for crafting a plan for the next 6 years. Next week, the WASP Credential Review Board will be coming to our campus. They'll be reading our 152-page self-evaluation. And based on our findings, we've established some goals that we think point us in the right direction and that we're all very unified behind and very excited about. All right, these are our ESLers. They're our school-wide learning outcomes, and they are really what we are shooting for at Rancho Cotati High School. They've been with us before the STAR test, before Common Core, and they're really kind of our core values. And I want to just kind of highlight that before we get into data. Data can be tricky for teachers to talk about and discuss because each one of us is so invested in student achievement. But there's also so much more that we do. And, that's been well highlighted by the presentations previous. All right, key data measurements. So one of the key data measurements that any high school looks at is our early assessment program. Our early assessment program is a really quick snapshot of which one of our juniors are ready to walk into a college tomorrow. So these are kids that have done well on the CAS testing, and they're good to go. This is also a great benefit to these students because they don't have to pay the entrance fees to take tests and examinations to get placement. Colleges are telling us if you get these scores, you get right into your English 101 class, your entry-level math class. So it's a good index for any high school to really look at. The blue line there is where you'll see that we went to the CAS testing from the STAR testing. That was the very first year that anybody at Rancho Cotati High School saw that. Prior to that, we really didn't have the technology, so thanks to the great infusion that we've had over the last few years, thanks to the bond measures, we now have the technology. We've got the kids on laptops. 2015 was the first time we did it, and it was a bit of a struggle for us. I think one of the key things that we took away from our students was that they were really surprised by the word problems, and to see complex real-world math problems put in front of them. So that's kind of what we've seen over the last 2 years. Starting to make some growth on those students that are ready. Anybody that's in those top bars, if they, the green ones, ready to go to college math class. Yellow, if they take a pre-calculus class at Rancho Cotati High School, they're good to go. They don't have to take those examinations to get in.
Can you?
Certainly.
My eyesight. So what percent is that 2015 after the blue line?
Yes.
What percent is not ready?
Percent not ready is 81.
Okay, and then the following year, it improved a little bit, but...
It did. We were able to impact that 10%. That dropped down to 71.
71.
Yeah. And I'll give you a data point a little later so you can kind of see how we're doing against the county and the state.
because it's pretty hard to, make sense of that without that contextual data. This is our early achievement performance assessment exam for English language arts. The blue line again is when our students began taking the online tests through CASP, and we have the yellow marks means that if they take an ERWC class at Rancho Cotati High School, that's an English writing and comp class taught by specially trained professors who our teachers go and learn how to teach this curriculum at the college. They come back, teach the course, and those students then go right into the English 101 course. So another healthy data point when you're looking at a high school is our CASP data compared to the county and the state. I put the red arrow there to help you see the direction that we want to go. Red is Rancho, and orange is Sonoma, and the green is the state. So our indexes are, fairly in line with the state. We do want to continue to push the exceeded. One kind of low-hanging fruit that we identified last year in looking at this data is we're seeing that our students are, for the first time, writing these online essays that are getting evaluated through these algorithms. So this year, we've done an adoption. Our students are getting to see that, have that experience much earlier on in their high school career. And we think that that's going to be something that helps refine them so that they're really putting their best foot forward.
How many students participate in that?
Every student, every grade level. So we do freshmen take the online assessments, sophomores, juniors. So we're going to make sure that by the time the student's a junior and they're taking those tests, that they're getting that feedback and they're understanding that they have to have complexity in their writing. They have to support their argument. They have to use clear language. So that's been a great boon to our system. This is our math CAS data, compared again to the county and state. Red for Rancho, orange Sonoma, and green state. So, you can see that the entire state is really sort of struggling. But I think that that's because the CASP are really those moonshot goals. You're looking at what you want your students to accomplish at the end, right before they go right into college. And that's a new index for us. This is really kind of being pushed down to us from the universities. They're telling us what they're needing from us. And we're able to kind of then up our game to make sure that we're meeting that. So while this might be a little frustrating, I think it's a healthy index and it's helping us understand what it is that the universities are needing from a math student. Advanced placement. Advanced placement is the only index that Newsweek and U.S. News and World Report looks at when they evaluate a high school. And you can see that that is on the rise at Rancho Cotati High School. In fact, last year, 192 students took advanced placement tests. That's the highest year on record, so we're very proud of that. So part of our approach is to really make sure that students at Rancho Cotati High are getting that rigorous college education. Another good index to look at when you're looking at a high school is our A through G rate. These are students who leave our campus, get their diploma, and they're able to go directly to a CSU or a UC. In order to do this, they have to take a very particular academic course, section of course. They have to make sure they check all those boxes. And it's much more rigorous than getting a high school diploma. And you can see that that's another index that is on the rise, and we're really proud of that. That's the work of largely our counseling team and making sure that what we're offering at Rancho Cotati High School is something that's submitted through the UC doorways and taking students on that path. And in 2016, 29% of our graduating class were eligible to go right into a UC or a CSU because they've met the A through G. So we're very proud of that. Yes?
I'm proud of that too, but I'd love to see that 60-70%.
I completely agree. And you asked earlier about the Earth Science class. Earth Science is not a course that is approved through the UC doorways for a lab science. And one of the big turns that we're able to do next year is we're going to enroll all freshmen right into a lab science. So they'll get that D section of their A through Gs right out the gate. Because we have a 3-year math requirement, that's something that's a lot challenging for a lot of different high schools for students to meet. For us, that's what they're meeting for their diploma, so it kind of meets that goal.
So who made the decision to eliminate earth sciences?
It's something that we've looked at for a long time. We see that it's a course that just isn't really checking that box off for those students. And so we decided that this was the year to be able to make that turn. And
So who
we're
was involved in that process?
Counselors, administrators, the science department, it's
Did you
collective.
consult RIPSIA?
My teaching staff are members of RIPSIA, so my counselors, so.
No, but in the RIPSIA contract, it says that on curriculum changes, you need to consult the union. Did you do that?
They were definitely a part of the table, and it's a change that we're happy to see happen.
So RIPSIA was involved in the change in earth sciences?
All my teachers and staff are members, RIPSIA members, and I
I'm
got their
saying
input.
RIPSIA, the union. Did you work with the union to make this change?
I think I'm a little confused about what you're asking me. My
Because-
teachers are members of RIPSIA,
No.
they have a vision.
No, it's not the teachers, it's the union leadership.
All right.
It's in the contract that you need to consult them about curriculum changes.
Okay.
Did you do
If
that?
I could interject,
yes,
if that's okay. We make curriculum changes on an hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly basis. We're more than happy to meet with RIPSIA if there's a curriculum change that is of particular concern to them.
So are you saying you don't consult RIPSIA about
So actually,
curriculum
what I'm saying
changes?
is the opposite. What I'm saying is we make changes daily.
So you're saying
There's a
RIPSIA was
curriculum and
consulted
we
about the
often-
earth sciences curriculum change? Is that what you're saying?
You know, it would be helpful if we attempt to speak without putting words.
No,
in
I'm
each other's
asking a
mouths, right?
question.
But you've put it in a way that was.
It's a simple question. It's a simple question. Was RIPSIA consulted
What I'm saying,
about the
I guess
earth
I
sciences?
could give a categorical no.
No, okay,
And
thank you.
should RIPSIA like to discuss the earth science change, we would be more than happy to do that. As I said, we make curricular decisions daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, and we're more than happy to meet the ed code requirement to consult.
Great. So we'll move on to the graduation rate and dropout rate. In 2013, we kind of took a look at our dropout rate and our graduation rate that's shared between our two high schools, but decided that we could do it better by bringing El Camino students back to their home school, by having them on our campus, a part of our lunches in our school community. We thought that we could afford them a better opportunity and hopefully impact the dropout rate. And that has happened over time. You can see we're down to 58 dropouts, and that the overall graduation rate has increased. Preliminary data for Rancho County High School for 2016 is that we should have a 92% graduation rate. The reason why I say this is preliminary is that this is cohort data. So what they do is they look at a group of students that enters your district and tracks them to that diploma. And that can be complicated because you've got the state numbers and tracking them and where do they go and when they leave the state and pros go. Long story short. So preliminary data, though, we think are going to even be better than that. And we're very proud of that as well. So the entire school looked at our data. We did surveys for both students. We had a very comprehensive survey for students, staff, parents. We got a lot of really critical feedback and a lot of beneficial feedback. And collectively, we set 3 goals for ourselves. So this is how Rancho County High School plans to improve academically. So goal 1, our area of improvement is we're hoping that we plan to increase our student success rates by doing a better job building a comprehensive system. So that we've got structures in place where we're monitoring students as they progress through our high school, so that those kids who are struggling there in mathematics, we're able to find them earlier and get them to the support that they need. Our second goal is to work with professional learning communities. We think the best experts are those on our campus, and if we're able to just sort of break down the silos of the classroom and have teachers talk to teachers, that there are amazing things happening every day on our campus, and we hope to create better vehicles for that to be shared amongst the staff. So this is a goal where we look at the data, we find those struggling students, and we share suggestions for altering curriculum, enhancing instruction, and keeping an eye always on that moonshot of academic rigor and making sure that all our kids are ready to leave our campus and walk right onto a four-year university. Our last area of improvement, we want to focus on ongoing communication and focusing on a more academic culture. That was something that we heard from our staff a lot. We want students on Rancho Cotati High School to have the tools that they need to be academically successful. And then that gave rise to our first 4 days that you may have heard about. The way we started the school year was giving students really practical advice about A through G achievement, about the importance of test scores, about careers, about student planners, and just focusing on fostering trust, supporting our new teachers, and establishing some real institutional norms and keeping an eye on our culture and making sure that our culture is one that is professional and focused on all students going to college or career. All right.
I do have a follow-up question. So, sometimes sitting here, one's surprised by the questions that one hears, but for students not going into earth science, then what course would they be going into specifically? As you said, a lab science, but what would that be?
Biology.
And do we already offer that?
Yes.
So really it's not a curricular change as much as an enrollment change, what classes you're scheduling students into, so we have an existing class that you're scheduling students into.
Correct, and what counselors were seeing was when they would place a kid, when they would just default place a child into earth science, a lot of times we'd get to the junior year and that's kind of where kids start to realize, oh, I gotta go to a college, and they were really disheartened. We got a lot of criticism for the fact that earth science did not check one of those boxes. And so now we're doing a much better job when those kids come in. We're putting them on a track that's headed towards the 4-year, and we're excited about that.
I mean, that makes sense, but, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we could also consult with Dr. Sinyard, but our high school courses that we offer do come to the district and the board for approval, correct?
Yes.
And so, in a sense, we have an approved course called Earth Science that we could theoretically enroll students in the future if we felt there was a need for that.
Sure, yeah. If there were academic trends
we're looking at the best course of action, which would be to enroll students in a lab science biology.
100%.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Okay, I have
Good for
a question. What's the percentage of Latino students?
We're about 37 to 40%.
And
I can get the number. I feel horrible just spitballing.
I was in the library for the alumni presentations, and thank you for and the counseling and the library staff. It was just great. I really appreciate that. I hope you do that every year. Alumni
We hope to.
Recognition Day. Are you satisfied with the? I assume there are books in Spanish, even if you encourage English language skills. There are books in Spanish in your library, right? It was a great looking library, right?
Yes.
And are you satisfied with the Spanish language materials in your library?
I think we have a good, healthy start. I think that's never been a problem that's arisen. The librarian does a really good job making sure that she's acquiring books based on student tastes and anything that the teachers might need. So I think we've got a healthy section there.
So there's no need for improvement?
There's always need for improvement. I'm an educator, and so I'm constantly striving for success. There'll never be a time when you'll ask me if I'm satisfied that I'll probably say yes. So,
What are the biggest challenges for you as a principal with the Latino community?
You know, I didn't want to get into too much of the minutia, but they lag behind their counterparts in this data. You know, if I'll come back again and I could break it apart for you, but they do lag behind, and a big reason for that is, you know, just the complexity of what they deal with. We have one of the best support systems in Sonoma County. I've got incredible teachers that are focused on that problem right there. But it's a thorny one, and it's something that we continually, you know, think about and discuss. In, I believe, February, Christina Grace, who's my EL coordinator, my English language coordinator, is presenting to staff data. She does this every year, and she offers suggestions for instructional strategies that might help. There's, you know, they have a lot of allies in the system that advocate for them, and, you know, it's an area we can always do better.
Sure, but are you aware of what your biggest challenges are in terms of the Latino students?
You being specifically or academically or?
In any way?
Sure, they struggle greatly in math, and they also struggle with a lot of the academic vocabulary. We spend a lot of time focusing on the academic vocabulary. You've mentioned writing many times, and we have 2 support sections that EL students get support both academically and in writing, so they'll spend half the period focused on writing. The other half is dedicated to the rest of their studies, and that's through English credentialed teachers. And we're starting to see a lot of benefit from that. This is the first year that we broke them into 2 different groups, and Heather Brown does one section, and Gina Dassow, another one of my great educators, works with the other group. And we're starting to see a lot of help, but we're constantly trying to come up with a, you know, build a better mousetrap and do what we can to help those students, you know, get up there with their peers.
Did you just lose a Spanish teacher?
Yeah, we had someone that took a position somewhere else.
Do you have enough Spanish teachers?
I can always use Spanish teachers. If anyone knows a Spanish teacher, send them my way. That's something that every summer it seems I'm recruiting for. And you know, bringing that full circle to the A through G, the fact that we need so many Spanish teachers is a good index that these students are focusing on those A through Gs and making sure that they have that language arts component that's critical. This year we had more freshmen than ever enroll in a Spanish course, and I think that's because our counselors are doing a good job helping frame for students what they need to accomplish to get to the college level courses. So I appreciate your time. I could spend all night talking to you. Yes.
So you 29% is ready for college.
Yes.
Of that 29%, of that, how much would you say goes on before your college? And then the other 71.5%, are they most of, and we have one of the greatest junior colleges in all of the United States, right in our back door.
Absolutely, and you know, one of the data points that we're really proud of is I went to Santa Rosa Junior College presentation, and Rancho Cotati High School sends more students there than any other high school in Sonoma. So we're very proud of that. We feel like we have a very strong pipeline that way, but we also want to make sure that we're cracking those doors open so that a student in their, you know, junior, senior year, we've all seen the light bulb moment go on for those teenagers, that they don't have the obstacles to pivot and, you know, head out to a UC or a CSU. So the goal really is to just make sure as many doors are open to these students as possible.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Can you take a 5-minute recess? reconvene with item 6A. There is no request for public comment on this item. Has any trustee not had the opportunity to review the staff report? Okay. Then do I have a motion to approve the ratification of the personnel action report 1617-6A certificated? Can I get a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, ratification of personnel action report, item 1617-6B classified. Do I have a motion?
Move we ratify personal action report 1617-6B classified.
Can I get a second? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7, business and operations services. We have no request for public comment on this item. Item A, adoption of Resolution 1617-11 regarding annual and 5-year accounting of developer fees for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2016 in the Capital Facilities Fund.
I move we adopt Resolution 1617-11 regarding annual and 5-year accounting of developer fees for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2016 in the Capital Facilities Fund.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? No? All those in favor? Oh, it is a roll call. I even wrote it right there. Okay, roll call?
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Farrell?
Yes.
Trustee Nod?
Yes.
Trustee Orloff?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson? Yes.
Okay. Item 8, board services. Public comment? Is Sam Diamond in the room? Okay. We'll move on. Has item 8A, fiscal update and planning.
So we have, under number 1, we have the 2017-18 governor's initial proposal that came out this month. Probably the biggest news is it's a bit pessimistic. There's a difference between Governor Brown's projections and the legislative analyst's office that's been fairly consistent with what he has done during this second go-round as governor. I was going to say second term, but I guess his third and fourth term. So he's projecting a fairly flat year for next year. And what he has done over the course of the last few years is if he sees the potential for increases, he's come up with one-time ways for those dollars to be allocated out to school districts, which has been good. It's always better to get more money than not. And he's definitely attempted to avoid mid-year cuts, and so that's beneficial. The LCFF at this point is approaching full funding, but it's a moving target. So I believe under his current projection will be at about 96% in 2017-18. He's still working on the state's rainy day fund. One of the things that I notice is compared to the overall size of the state budget, or even compared to the size of the Prop 98 part of the budget for education, it's incredibly small. It generated a lot of publicity, but it looks like it'll be about $7.9 billion. So compared to 1 year Prop 98 funding, he's projecting $73.5 billion. So you can see, just in terms of the education portion, it's pretty small. And that comprises 60 or so % of the overall state budget. So the rainy day fund, although being filled up, is not very full. One of the things that we've been lobbying for, and more discussions are taking place, is a change in how the local control funding formula is being implemented. The disparity now, several years in, between districts in a specific area getting concentration grant dollars versus districts not getting concentration grant dollars is huge. We have a neighboring school district, and I don't want to overestimate it, but my guess is probably And it's shocking, on the order of almost $2,000 more per student. You heard Principal Susan Lopez talk about the needs at John Reed and Waldo Rohnert. Under the governor's initial rollout of the local control funding formula, those schools would have benefited. It was going to be a look at individual schools, not districts as a whole. And so you can have a district that has significant needs based on the unduplicated count of pupils, but only getting supplemental grant dollars versus the concentration grant dollars. And there are areas where there's really absurdities for anyone to see. If you're a district at the 54% level, you've got a lot of needs around your district, and you probably have many schools at that 80, 85, 90% poverty or second language level, but you don't get concentration grant dollars. And if you just increased 1% more, you would. And you would literally get thousands of dollars more per student. So they need to revisit it, and I think we need adequate funding for all students. There's a theory that those concentrations of poverty make it more difficult to overcome. Don't argue, I'm not arguing with the theory, but if you have a large district, we're relatively small, we seem big here in Sonoma County, but around the state there are plenty of districts with 30, 40, 50,000 students. You can have a lot of pockets of poverty in a district of that size and be far into that 55% level and not get those concentration grant dollars. So we would like to see a change in how that's implemented, and individual students to generate more of that funding, or there should be some component to look at schools and how schools are impacted. So any questions on the governor's proposal for this January? We'll look again in May, the May revise, and then what's adopted in June. Item 8A2, I'll just read the brief staff blurb and then certainly listen to any board comments or questions. Superintendent recommends each trustee be provided with district hardware and software to facilitate digital board agenda preparation and usage. This will reduce the amount of paper used in the district and provide a platform for all trustees to receive and access information in the same manner. Disability access software will be provided for all trustees to use as needed. Software will be sought to synchronize presentations that are given at board meetings. A review of current board bylaws will take place to see if any changes are required due to digital migration. Additionally, the board of trustees may want a future agenda item to discuss usage parameters of technology during meetings. A lot of districts around the state of California, and this is something that we see at CSBA, have gone to a more digital approach. I went and visited Santa Rosa City School District at their last board meeting just to watch how they did things. Each trustee there is provided with hardware that they do use. We'd like to get some more information from their staff about how they sync certain things up. But for instance, they use the city council chambers in Santa Rosa, so there is a screen that is used to present information, but each trustee has their own device that they can access that presentation with, rather than look up at the screen. And there is software that can sync that sort of thing up. Each trustee can have digital documents and be able to point, click, expand. There certainly would be an initial startup cost, but on the other side there would also be some savings as well. We try to already minimize as much as we can how much paper we use, but there is a cost to that. And we just want to make sure we give you the best access to information available. So depending upon the kind of platform that we would use, I gave a range probably of an initial startup cost of around $10,000, maybe at the low side, $15,000 at the high side. Been working with our information technology director to look at the best platform to use, and our preference would be to get everyone on the board the same thing, so that you have the same common experience and you know what your fellow trustees have. We would provide something for our student trustees as well. We'd probably provide the same thing here that Executive Secretary McKeon would have, so that we can monitor that everything's working. So somewhere around 7 or so to 8 platform, hardware machines. There's some software costs. Some of it might be small, some of it might be larger, depending upon how far we want to go. At a cost comparison, I did contact CSBA. They provide a digital platform called Agenda Online. It's $2,750 on an annual basis to use it, and a $500 setup fee. So that's just sort of an example. I'm not recommending it. I'm not a big proponent of it. I sit on a board that uses it. I'm the Superintendent's Council, which governs our special education local plan area. To me, it's a bit frustrating and hard to use and find documents. So we're looking at other solutions, up to and including, we believe, and we did some experimentation with it this month, that we can customize our own digital platform that would allow trustees to access information. So if you want to provide direction that we're going, that we should proceed, we'll continue to do our investigation and look to get the best products and services for the board.
Is Santa Rosa's equipment standalone, or are they using what the city has there?
It's, I believe, standalone. There is also...
They bring in their own laptops, they're not using the...
Yes, they don't, this pivoting, I did not see them, I haven't spoken directly with staff.
All right.
And either I can do that or our information technology director, but I saw and have been before, and I've seen the pivoting screens. They're not using those to the best of my knowledge. They may be using some of them, but the trustees do not use them.
I know a lot of peers that I've encountered and met through CSBA, their districts do use some sort of...
It's becoming more common.
Yeah, and with their own hardware. So it's, I mean, I know that former trustee Gilardi had investigated this and had mentioned it, I think, on numerous occasions during board meetings. And, with the amount of paper we see, it also, it minimizes the interruption, I guess, to some extent. Mindy doesn't have to come by our house every Thursday. We get it via a click, and it's there. Everyone gets it simultaneously. If there's an update because, something didn't get fed correctly, it's there at the same time for everybody. There's some good things that go with it. It's cumbersome to carry the stuff around, but sometimes I like the paper, so it's the same. You've got the same problems, but I think we should investigate further. That's my own bent here.
I think we should too. I'm anti-paper, so I look at them online, but I don't print out all the extra stuff, so it's nice for me to be able to have that then here.
Number 2 is I do keep all of the paper, so my whole closet is full.
You do?
I do. Resource, go back and look at that.
As needed, we could still use paper.
I would like it to be like on my laptop or somewhere where I don't have to dig.
Until the battery runs out.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the understanding that there's got to be some additional discussion in regard to usage of all technology, really. So.
We'll do as much investigating as we can this month and looking at what the right hardware and software platforms will be.
This will be a laptop that I carry with me, take places. Does it reside here?
Right now, that's something the board can certainly discuss. We would propose that you would be able to use it as a trustee for any trustee functions that you would have. You keep it with you, of course, pertaining to our usage, conditions and keeping it safe and charged. But if you attended a meeting, if you attended a workshop that you would have it to use, we would service it and keep it functioning. Probably right now we're looking at the most functionality coming from an iPad, but it might end up being a laptop as well. Thank you. We don't have any new information. Nothing's changed since December on the parcel tax or the bond. The facilities update, which is item 5, was included in the board packet, and it's a summary of all of the projects that were discussed at the special board meeting that took place on November 29, 2016. broken down either by major maintenance, which we talked about, or by potential projects at each school. This is not a list that is funded. This is a list that shows the direction that we would be going. Many of them could be funded, but not every single one of them currently with bond funds available. And then lastly, I'd like CBO Barron to come to the podium, and she's going to provide some explanation on our enrollment report and some changes that have occurred and errors that have been made.
So the enrollment report in your packet is not completely accurate. There are some formula errors in terms of cells that pointed to another supporting spreadsheet. That spreadsheet was modified when we added expanded transitional kindergarten. So we will be preparing revised reports for November, December, and we'll distribute those along with the report for January. I would remind the board that each month's report is our best snapshot at that moment in time. We know that it is quite common for there to be changes that occur to a prior month after the fact. So if a student is disenrolled today, we find out that they actually left at the end of the semester in December. We may have run the report for December with that student still there because we simply didn't know they weren't coming back or that they had moved over winter break. That said, the other difference that you see that's significant from November to December is expanded transitional kindergarten shrinks every month as the students turn 5. So that'll be something that will change, and by the time we get to the end of the year, that number we would expect to be very close to 0. We know we do have a few students who don't actually turn 5 till July. So that said, this isn't an action item in any way. It's really meant to just be a way for us to have a sense of how are things going compared to last year. Are there any questions? Okay, we'll have more detailed information next month.
And I would say that we can note that even with the challenges here and the changes with ETK, it does look like our enrollment's down this year. And we need to redouble our effort to make sure we can enroll every student. Things like the kindergarten fair and our marketing and what we're doing on our school sites is very, very important. We want all of our students enrolled.
Do we have any indication as to why? Is the economy getting better and people are moving to different housing, other places? I know we have lots of new housing on the horizon. Is there any idea as to why we're down a little bit?
I really need to sit and look at the sort of, it was mentioned by Principal Carter, cohort analysis, and look at, I wish there was a more robust build out from the state on CalPads.
Right.
One of the things that we've mentioned in the past, and we've done a report for the board, is on transiency. You'd be shocked in any given year, some of our schools, how many students cycle in and how many students cycle out. It's not a huge number that we're looking at being down. It's always better to be up than down. So it's hard to tell if it's just a statistical blip or part of a trend. Part of it I think might be something we've experienced at the high school level the last few years, which we've been exiting out and helping students get into new opportunities, whether through the Gateway to College or the California Conservation Corps. So part of it is, I think, we haven't had as much growth at the high school level as we've had elsewhere. Still looking at the long-term trends, we've been entering bigger kindergarten classes than we've been exiting. In fact, this is probably one of the smallest senior classes we've had in some time. Another thing that I'm looking at is part of the enrollment growth was probably based upon expeditionary learning, doubling in size, and expanding technology high school by 120 students. So when we were doing that, it was showing that growth. But now those are both fully built out. So it doesn't show the growth, and then if we have some statistical ups and downs with third or fourth grade, it highlights it more. That was being hidden, I think, by that growth. You know, there's a portion of both of those programs that do attract students from outside our boundaries. It's a minority, but it's still a portion. So I think that's another factor.
Programs draw students.
Yep. That's all I have under 8A.
Item B, can I get a motion for the adoption and revision of board policies and philosophy, goals, objectives, and comprehensive plan series 0000?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, can I get a motion for the adoption of Resolution 1617-13 declaring intention to reimburse expenditures from the proceeds of obligations to be issued by the Cotati-Warner Park Unified School District? Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, questions, a little bit is, can you explain what the, what expenses will be incurred prior to the receipt of funds? Is this Jones Hall asking to be paid prior to stuff being issued?
No, there's currently no expenditures scheduled pursuant to this resolution. It's possible something could come up. Those types of payments to bond counsel would only come following the sale of a bond, and since we have an existing bond and existing bond funds that we can draw upon, you know, since we really were sadly not well underway in construction of the theater, academic, and gymnasium building.
Right.
I can't contemplate this resolution being needed, but it's still precautionary and advised by our bond counsel. You know, if we didn't have access to any bond funds and we wanted to start a project, we could, and then after the bond sale, we could reimburse from one fund to another. We do borrow from funds fairly regularly, so it's possible, but at this point, nothing is scheduled to be expended pursuant to this resolution. It's just precautionary on the advice of our bond counsel.
Okay, roll call.
Trustee Brown?
No.
Trustee Farrow?
Yes.
Trustee Nod?
No.
Trustee Orloff?
Yes.
Trustee Wiltman?
Yes.
Item D, can I get a motion for the adoption of Resolution 1617-10, Best Value Procedures and Guidelines pursuant to Education Code Section 17406?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, questions, I did a week ago or so, not a week ago or so, but on the leaseback study, there's a whole bunch of things that have led up to us. There's several ed codes. I wrote my notes, but then
I believe principally it's 17406.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head.
And then last year there was 350.
The big change is due to AB 2316.
Right. There's just been a whole lot of changes type of thing.
Correct, yes.
And Lorenzo Smith, and I don't know if Ann went to their symposium. I don't think so.
Lozano Smith?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure Lozano Smith. They put out a pretty good PowerPoint, you know, talking about the pros and cons of leaseback and where it's been and talking about the lawsuits and, you know, the pros and cons. They did a pretty good job of, you know, what the advantages are, you know, and what the potential disadvantages are. And they talked about, you know, whether you're, and all the various components, whether it's lease back and court challenges, lump sum versus fee proposal, prime contractor, or single prime contractor. So there's a whole bunch of things here. So when we did Promise Page, that was a lease back as a lump sum amount, correct?
It was a negotiated guaranteed maximum price.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
With full disclosure.
Right. Okay. So going...
The fee proposal methodology, just so we're clear, what this action is doing, this isn't a contract
Right.
for any services.
Right.
This is merely outlining the methodology for which anyone could put in a, respond to the proposal to provide services. There would still be probably a pre-construction agreement, which the law has made much clearer now. That's a benefit
Right.
for maybe 2316. And then a guaranteed maximum price contract. Those would all come later. This is just in the Exhibit A showing the methodology that any, for lack of a better term, prime contractor would have to put forward. So they could provide an estimate on the pricing, or they could provide how they would price the project.
Right.
But none of that would matter until the district, the board approved the actual pre-construction agreement for services or the lease-back agreement for construction.
So this is all directed legislation, so if we do lease back in the future, you got to do an RFP, correct?
Correct. We would immediately put out, pursuant to this, that request for proposals for prime contractors to respond to based on this methodology.
And for the rating on that, who's going to be on that rating team? So when they come in, we have a rating criteria. Is that more than one person?
Yeah, we would have it reviewed by multiple levels of district staff.
Okay.
And then, as with any contract, that would come back to the Board of Trustees, whether as a pre-construction agreement or as a lease-back agreement. So for instance, for Richard Crane, that would be the project most constrained by time.
Right.
So we're going to have to move very, very quickly for Richard Crane. The next project that we would be looking at would be the Theater Academic Gymnasium building.
Sure.
Even those are both well underway, based upon advice from our council and our desire to seek state reimbursement, should it be available. We would follow this methodology, and so the contractor would have to respond with the proposal to meet the criteria that we
And this
outlined.
pertains to leaseback. Doesn't mean that we have to do. I mean, we have a choice of doing.
I would say with the Richard Crane project and the Theater Academic Gymnasium project, if we were to switch now, that would present probably some legal issues that we'd have to look at carefully. But with all of our projects, we look at what's the best methodology for that individual project. Some of them are straight bid. They're very well-defined projects. Some of them are lease-back. And then even with that, you mentioned like in the Lozano Smith, there are different types of lease-back projects.
So is the rating process going to be completely transparent?
Yeah, of course. I mean, when we put out a request for proposals, which is essentially like a bid, some of the information that is responded is proprietary and is not disclosed. But the decision-making process is completely transparent.
Kind of not related to this, but we're not going to talk about when we're going to go to sell the bonds, are we? On the agenda?
No, but I mean, it's a short answer. We're projecting probably the soonest we would do a sale would be probably April.
Okay. Hopefully our president, for those of us that our president-elect in December, said that he was thinking about making municipal bonds to lose their tax-free status, which caused the bond market to take a significant hit. It has come back. But hopefully he doesn't dabble in that going forward, because if that does, that's going to affect our bond sale thing. It's going to make it not attractive. I can't imagine he'd do that.
We stay in touch regularly with our financial advisor and our underwriter to monitor. Luckily, we're in a position right now where we're not necessarily under pressure to have to go out and sell a bond to keep a project moving forward. We can look for, some amount of market timing.
Okay.
Roll call?
Trustee Brown?
No?
Trustee Farrell?
Yes.
Trustee Nod?
No.
Trustee Orloff?
Yes.
Trustee Wilkman? Yes.
Item E, acceptance of audit report for year ended June 30th, 2016.
And we have with us tonight Sheldon Siobhan of Siobhan and Associates, who will give a presentation.
Good evening, everybody. How you doing? Happy New Year. I am here to present the June 30, 2016 audit report and give you the results and maybe give you a little bit of an idea of what you're looking at in this 100-page report that we give you every year. So I'm starting out with the most important topic for all local governments basically in the last year and a half or so, maybe even the last 25 years if you think about what PERS and STRS have done with their investments and their returns on investments. And that is GASB number 68, Governmental Accounting Standards Board statement number 68. And basically what we're talking about with this is the invention of the net pension liability in your government-wide statement of net position. Now keep in mind in this report you see two different presentations. One is your fund statements that you're used to seeing pretty much throughout the year. So you're looking at fund balances, you're looking at your first, second budget, interim budget, and your final budgets, but you're not necessarily used to seeing what this statement of net position looks like and this government-wide presentation of what it really means. The net pension liability as required by GASB 68 really only impacts from an asset or a liability point of view, the government-wide presentation. It does not impact your fund statements. However, that net pension liability is directly attributed to the changes in your annual required contributions, right? So it's more of a way to let districts know and other local governments know where they stand at a point in time with their net pension liability and how that's going to impact that future contribution rate. One thing to note is that there was a slight increase, if you consider $4 million slight, in your net pension liability from June 30, 2015 to June 30, 2016 of about $4 million. A little repetitive there, but there was a $4 million increase, and basically what we're looking at with that is June 30, 2015 was the first year of implementation. We're now into the second year of that implementation. We did not have any prior period adjustments this year related to GASB 68, which is great because usually when you have a standard that's this complex, and it's very complex looking into those actuarial studies, there are some little things that pop up that require prior period adjustments. So we did a good job of making sure that we had a clean transition into year two.
Can I interject with a question?
Absolutely, anytime.
So, just in the interest of disclosure, that net pension liability is not individual to Cotati Park, but that's our share of the state liability, correct?
That is correct. It's a pooled plan, so it's a cost-sharing plan, both PERS and STRS. STRS is the larger of the two, and this is a proportionate share of that liability. And so it does have a weird impact on your financial statements. If you look at government-wide financials, you'll see that you have something called a deficit net position. So it's a negative equity, basically. You won't see that in your fund balance. If you look at your fund balance, you'll see pretty strong, reserves. You met your 3% required minimum reserve as of June 30, 2016. But then you convert add this net pension liability, your proportionate share, and you see a deficit fund balance. It doesn't have any impact on your opinion from an audit perspective, and it doesn't have any impact from the bonding agencies. They're looking again at your fund balance. Recent events with PERS, they recently decreased the discount rate from 7.5% to 7%. That's going to be effective in 2018-19. What does that mean to the district? It means more liabilities. A greater share of that net pension liability will be reported for the fiscal year into June 30, 2019.
And that does have a direct impact on the district because that means our rate to cover that will have to go up.
Correct.
So that's a huge impact to districts across the state.
That is a huge impact to the districts across the state. So it's going the opposite direction of what PERS said it would go, right? They actually issued last year when we did the implementation of GASB 68, they said it would stay flat in the sense of the discount rate, because there were going to be other factors that were going to increase, that will be attributed to the increase in your annual required contribution. Well, this is going to be a huge change. You're looking at, if you look at I think you're about, let me see if I'm remembering correctly here, 34, about $8 million was of your net pension liability was directly related to PERS. So that $8 million liability at 7% is probably be more like $14 million. You see, so that kind of an impact. I'm going to show you one more statement, GASB 75, and the reason I'm doing this is that as of June 30, 2018, you are going to have to report the unfunded actuarial liability for your other post-employment benefits. It's a very similar, it's exactly the same, actually, presentation for your other post-employment benefits as we currently do with your pension benefits. So you currently have a net pension liability. Well, as of June 30, 18, you will also have an other post-employment benefit liability for the unfunded portion of those benefits.
And that is a direct liability of our district, not a share.
That is absolutely correct. That is not proportionate. There's no pool. This is direct liability, and it will only be found in your government-wide statement of net position. It does not have a direct impact on your fund balance at all. So now that number at June 30, 2016. Oh, okay, let me go back here. Here we go. That number at June 30, 2016 would be $10.3 million. That's going to go up unless there's been drastic changes or will be drastic changes to those benefits offered. It'll go up just simply because of increases in CPI and assumptions, and it will also go up because actuarial standards have changed. So that number I would expect to increase slightly. This is just a quick summary of what your government-wide revenues look like in the June 30, 16 audit report. This is not what they look like in your fund statements. This is a consolidated point of view, and it's an adjustment to a different accounting basis. Right? We're reporting this on an accrual basis, not a modified accrual basis like you do in your funds. And you can see there's a slight increase in 2016. Grants and entitlements, unrestricted grants and entitlements, slightly larger. Property taxes, slight increase. Program revenues remain relatively level. And again, government-wide revenues, not something you're used to seeing. The other side of the coin, government-wide expenses. Again, this is consolidated, not your fund statements. This is the consolidated presentation for the district. And so you can see for 2016 versus 15, nice little chart that shows you what we like to see basically is that instruction being the most, well, let's say this better than I was about to. The instruction should be the largest portion of your expenses, and that's what we want to see. We want to see those yellow bars flying off the page, and so right here, it's a perfect example of what we would expect to see. You do notice that there is an increase from 15 to 16 of about $5 million. Some of that is directly related to your pension costs, right? And some of that's related to just regular instruction and normal increased operations. There's also depreciation expense in those numbers. Not something you're used to seeing in your fund statements. So there's actually about 30 different state compliance requirements that we're required to test. Not all of them are applicable to your district. But here's the synopsis of a few of them. Local control funding formula, of course, we have to look at that. California Clean Energy Job Act, Education Protection Account funds, Common Core Implementation funds. Most importantly, this year and the last couple of years has been the unduplicated local control formula pupil counts. Basically what we're testing there is the EL kids and the free and reduced kids and the CalPAD reports. And we've had a lot of findings on those at other clients in the last few years. Just cleanup things that really do lead to, thousands of dollars of money going in the wrong direction. And I'll let you know in a few minutes if we had those findings here or not. So part of the audit, we have to focus on federal grants. We just discussed state compliance a little bit. Federal grants are applicable now if you spend $750,000 in federal awards. It used to be $500,000, now it's $750,000. And we now follow uniform guidance. It's still under OMB not OMB A133 anymore, but really just OMB. And they've consolidated a lot of the compliance manuals so that auditors' lives are a little bit more complicated. So, we have an unmodified opinion. What does that mean? That means we have a clean opinion without exceptions. So that's good news again. No qualifications in the report. We did not have any material weaknesses. And a material weakness is when an auditor finds an adjustment that is material to the financial statements. Materiality is a term used in auditing, and it's something that we determine based on industry standards and based on what standards we're required to follow. We did not have any disagreements with management. And we did not have any audit adjustments. And we did not have any passed on audit adjustments. So we determine materiality, and in doing that, we also identify a threshold for something that we might find that should be corrected but doesn't have to necessarily be corrected because it's not material. So it's insignificant. So if it's insignificant, we can move on and just not note it as a pass-on adjustment. So we didn't have those. We also identify items that just are so insignificant, they just don't make it even into our pass-on adjustment list. That concludes my presentation, and I'd like to thank Ann Barron again once a year. The other night I mentioned at Millbrae Elementary School District that I worked with one of the best accountants ever at that district, Denise. And I have to say that Ann's probably right there with her industry experience in the years that she's been doing this. And so it's been my pleasure to work with her over the years, and she's done a great job.
All right, Ann.
Any questions?
It's always nice to have a clean report, huh?
Yeah, especially after this year.
Yeah. I move we accept the audit report for the year ended June 30, 2016.
Is there any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
F.
Thank you, CBO.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Sheldon.
Item F, approval of parcel tax citizens oversight committee members.
I move we approve the parcel tax citizens oversight committee membership.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Oh,
Discussion.
further discussion?
Are we short on membership on those two committees?
At the moment, we're considering under 8F the Parcel Tax Citizens Oversight Committee, and we would prefer 7 members. We made some adjustments to the committee several months ago, and we have a standing recruitment, if you will. If anyone knows someone that would like to join, we'd be more than happy to present them onto the board. This is a locally created committee. It's not required by state ed code. The bylaws for this committee can be modified by the Board of Trustees at any time, but we think having a robust level of membership is a good thing. And we've had good membership over the years, just people move away and people move on to other things.
So as part of the election ballot thing, was it said that we would have an oversight committee?
Correct.
Right.
But the bylaws are governed by the Board of Trustees rather than the next item where it's governed by state code. So if anyone would like to join the committee, we've never turned anyone down. By we've presented to the Board of Trustees. It's up to you. You may decide to do that at some point, but.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 8G, approval of Citizens Bond Oversight Committee membership. Do I have a motion?
I move we approve the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee membership.
Further discussion? Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item 8H, acceptance of gifts and donations to schools in the school district. We got for Evergreen Elementary books, binders, paper from Sean Skolnick in the value of $30. We have a monetary donation from Cal Skate in the amount of $212. We have security radios from Evergreen PTA in the amount of $2,020. For Thomas Page Academy, we have a monetary donation from PG&E Employee Giving in the amount of $100. The Safe Schools Program, Sonoma County Medical Association in the amount of $1,000. Monetary for the TPA Garden from Gilliran Energy Management in the amount of $1,500. Monetary from the Cotati Accordion Festival for $5,000. And for Rancho Cotati, for the athletics program from the Rancho Cotati Boosters in the amount of $15,000.
I move we accept the gifts and donations to schools and districts totaling $24,862.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have no, item 9, public comment. For items not on the agenda, we have no public comment cards turned in. So item 10, we will convene to close session. We are going to reconvene to open session. On a motion by Trustee Orloff and a second by Trustee Wiltemuth, the Board of Trustees voted 5-0 to approve a settlement agreement between the district, Rohnert Park Cotati Educators Association, dated June 14, 2016, and signed November 28, 2016, to resolve grievance 1415-3. And then on a motion by Trustee Orloff and a second by Trustee Wiltemuth, the Board of Trustees voted 3-2, with Trustees Brown and Non dissenting, to move Director Savage to step 6 on the salary schedule for classified management, and the same for Supervisor McKenna. Item B, future agenda items. Anybody have anything to put on future agenda?
I had a conversation with the school board president of the Santa Rosa City Schools yesterday about, you might have read in the Press Democrat about their resolution to offer safe haven for their students and families. And I'm going to work with her on adapting their resolution. This was also passed by the Los Angeles Unified School District and Sacramento Unified School District, for our district to consider that resolution at the next meeting. And so I will be presenting that to school board members in the meantime, so you'll have a chance to read it. And they had a very good experience. They had children who were coming to school asking their teachers if they were going to be taken out of the school by law enforcement because of all the changes in the political climate. And I think it's important that we assure our students, like they did, that they are safe and secure and can focus on learning in the classroom.
If you forward that, I think you just need to forward it to Tracy and to Rob, not to all of us.
Sure.
If we're going to consider anything. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? And this meeting is adjourned.